We are ready, Freddie.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone, to our May 5th, 2026 School Board Workshop.
You mean to move that mic?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you for that. Uh, Agenda amendments were only to add the presentations that we're about to go through today. So I want to say welcome, everybody, as we start this process with Level Up, our changes to student progression program, and the student code of conduct, which is something that we do annually. So with that, I will look to Miss Dr. Breslin and let her take it from
Thank
here.
you, Madam Chair. Good morning, board members, and
Good morning.
thank you everyone for being here.
Morning.
We will have Dr. Fradley, Executive Director of our middle school programming, come up and introduce our guests for the first presentation for the Level Up program brought to us by Game On Nation.
Good morning, everybody, Madam Chair, board members, Superintendent Breslin. I'm going to introduce Erin Watson. She is from Level Up Game On, and we're kind of tag team on presentations you guys on the program this year and our plans moving forward into next year. So I'd like to introduce Erin Watson.
Thank you.
And she wants to talk to you guys up here.
I do better standing than sitting down.
Same.
It's the Italian in me. I can't help
We
it.
have a copy of the presentation,
We do.
and then I will run the PowerPoint.
Right, and thank you to Danielle for helping run the slides from over on the side. But my name is Erin Watson. I work with Game On Nation. I'm our director of programs. On a personal level, I have 3 children that are going through the Manatee County School District. I've got one in VPK. I've got one in good luck on the student conduct plan because you'll need it for him. Youngest child things. Our middle son is in 3rd grade and prepped to take his FAST test later this week, and we're praying over him for that. And then our oldest is in 6th grade at King Middle School and thriving. He seems to be really enjoying himself. So we appreciate everything that you invest in our students, in my children personally. I am not born and raised from Manatee County, but I married a 5th generation Braytonian. Went to Manatee High School. I believe he played football with Chad at some point. So we're in this community, and that's why this program means so much to us, is to be able to invest back in our students beyond the academics that they are going to need to succeed. It's the interpersonal skills that they need to be a success in the world. How are we building communication and connection skills in a meaningful way that they become more resilient, more thoughtful, more stronger critical thinkers? How are we giving them those essential human capabilities that the robots can never take from them so that they can be meaningful members of society? Those are things that are very important to us. So as we move into the next slide, Game On has been in business for the last almost 30 years. And what differentiates us is that we use improv-driven curriculum to make learning experiential. Before joining Game On, I used to work with Florida law-related education, doing civic illegal education programs. And I learned the value of teaching 7th grade civics. It needs to be experiential. How do I make kids care about legislation that they don't feel like impacts them? I put them in it and make that simulation come to life. So it's the same thing for interpersonal skills. If I'm going to teach you to be a good communicator, we're going to have to communicate in class. And we're going to have to change up what that structure looks like to make me an engaging teacher and more of a facilitator for them to be able to explore the conversations with their peers that they need to. We have immediate application as a result of those improv-based exercises. You think you're playing a game, but you're actually practicing the skill. And it just makes it kind of one of those things that we bring the fun to bring the learning. We want to attack it in that way. And then lastly, we have facilitators who are incredibly gifted at this, and those facilitators are going to be the trainers for the teachers of this program, putting them through an immersive program so that when they are ready to go teach this in the classroom, they have been through it like they're one of their students. We like to build on that empathy muscle as much as we can. So on the next slide, we have a wide array of clients who we work with, and the reason I bring this up, the reason I showcase our sports teams, corporations, and tier 1 military audiences that we work with, we're using the same curriculum with these clients that we are using with the students. We use the same games and same exercises because we want our students to be high performers, and we're already using this in high performance culture. And social skills are the same whether you're 12, whether you're 38, whether you're 65. They are a universal conversation. And we want students to be able to bridge those generational gaps that exist too, so that when they get to that point in high school, when they are getting ready to go out and interview to be part of the real world, they know how to do that effectively across those generational gaps. So on the next slide, we lean into why improv. We get asked this a lot, and with the name like Game On, sometimes we get confused for video games. And so I just wanted to bring that clarity around the improv piece of this. So we've all been to professional developments where we are immediately made uncomfortable because it's like share your deepest, darkest secrets, or like tell us why you're an interesting person. And then I'm the last person to go and I'm like, I'm not interesting because I just heard what everyone else said. So we want to find a way to bring that challenge along with support, because that's what's going to build trust. If we support all the time, we're going to enable. If we challenge all the time, we're not going to create people who feel resilient or empowered. So when we couple those things in improv and we're challenging you a little bit, but we want you to succeed, we're going to have a good time. And we are going to figure out where that learning happens. So in the spirit of that, we're going to play a quick game. Very quickly, I promise. So Chad, I'm going to pick on you for this.
That's
if
fine.
you don't mind. I knew you'd be okay with it. So you and I are just going to have a quick back and forth conversation. The rules around this conversation is you are going to continue the conversation using the last letter of my last word.
Okay.
Okay? I am going to take care of you, and I'm not going to be like, hey, you got a Kleenex? Because that leaves you with xylophone or x-ray, and that's just not a good time.
Okay.
So again, you'll start your sentence with the last letter of my last word, and we're just going to go back and forth and have a conversation.
Okay.
Cool?
Let's do it.
All right.
Try.
So it is only Tuesday, but man, I am looking forward to the weekend. Do you guys have any plans?
So supposedly it's Mother's Day, so maybe something with my mother.
Right? I'm glad you reminded me it's Mother's Day. I'm a little concerned because I thought I was going to forget about that. Have you already gone shopping?
Good question. No, I've not gone shopping. Have
Great.
you?
Unfortunately, I have not, and was pondering this morning because I know my mom's going to feel some kind of way if I forget. What's kind of your go-to for getting gifts?
So I really don't have a go-to. It's just whatever sparks my mind at that particular moment.
Give him a round of applause because he was not expecting to do that this morning. And now I would like to challenge you to turn to somebody else, whether you are out here in the gallery or up here, and I want you to try to have a quick last letter, first letter conversation because he shouldn't have all the fun. So let me give you just a second to try it out. You applauded because I didn't pick you, but I'm going to turn it over to you all right now.
You ready?
Okay.
You want to start or you want me to start?
You go ahead.
So what's the most important
So
thing
how
about today?
has your week been going?
No, it's good. No, it's there.
Great.
You have no idea.
Good.
True.
That's interesting. What is it?
What
special
other,
project?
how about after work today? What is the most?
True that.
What is your plan for after work today?
Putnam and Alachua are your allies on the issue. You're in bad shape, right?
Sounds great. I think I know the group you're talking about.
Right.
All right,
What are
I'll
you
go
gonna
ahead and
focus
pull you back from your conversations really quickly once you get a good stopping point.
Going to that too. It'll be interesting. Are you going to the beach or the
Love it.
afterwards?
That's good. Oh, so you speak tonight.
All right, let me go ahead and bring everybody back in. So as you saw,
You've lost the marriage.
I would say we lost everybody, and that's okay because you got lost in the game. And honestly, if the biggest challenge a teacher has in the classroom is getting their kids to come back to them because they're having a conversation with someone else,
That's a great-
we're doing okay. So as a result of that exercise, some of the things that we are using to teach off of that moment, number one, you have to listen. You have to listen for that last letter of that last word. You have to be intentional with your word choice. You need to pause. How often as adults do we feel like we need to immediately respond to something someone says as opposed to sitting in it and thinking it through? How many of you forgot every word that starts with the letter Y? Okay? And I saw you all taking care of each other, and I love what you did by saying, I'll give you another letter. Because that's the other thing. We want to teach kids to take care of each other. If I end on 5 letters or words that end with L, you start to run out of words. So how am I being intentional to navigate and give somebody a good letter to start their sentence with? So we're teaching them intentionality. We're teaching them listening. We're teaching them the power of pause. And we're doing it in this way that doesn't feel like learning, if you will, but it feels like a game. And so that's the whole intention behind this, and the teach off of that for the teachers is to give them this guide, and we have a very robust guide. I'll show you on the next slide. We have a very large teacher's guide that walks them through every exercise using what we call our teach framework. So they tee it up, and then they are going to expand on what that looks like. They're going to be able to make the connection for their student. They're going to play the game, and then they're going to ask them some questions. And then from there, the students have a workbook page that they will go through in small groups to discuss. Part of the reason that we wanted to make sure there was an accompanying workbook is we also want to teach them some self-reflection skills. So when you open this workbook, on the left-hand side is a daily journal page. As a past educator, I'm a big believer in classroom management. As a parent and teacher, I'm a huge fan of routines, to where if my students know to walk in every day, grab your Level Up book, sit down, and do your journal page. And we've tried to make those fun and interactive, everything from what emotion are you experiencing today? If your emotion was a color, what would it be and why? Having them do some self-reflection in a fun kind of way. And then the other side is that more academically driven worksheet to tie back to the lesson that they've just done. We understand that cross-curricular integration is incredibly important. We can't just teach resilience, but we do need to teach some of those other standards-driven skills in order to add to the validity of the program as well. So we're deepening and strengthening decision-making skills. We're teaching them communication. And then on the next slide, you'll see that we've been intentional to make sure it's standards aligned. So initially, we just tied it to the resiliency standards. So they were going to be looking at how this ties to character, personal responsibility, mentorship and citizenship, and critical thinking and problem solving. But as we started sitting and thinking about this, they are learning incredibly important oral communication skills, everything from verbal communication to nonverbal communication. We have an entire lesson in there about how do you read nonverbal cues from people? How are we taking, someone's pause and quiet and receiving that and letting them have that? So things that, again, we teach these same skills to adults, and they're not getting it perfect either. So starting in middle school, I think we're doing a good job of introducing these concepts pretty early on. And then in the communication through writing, we want them to use that personal narrative. We want them to think about point of view. I see this situation this way. My teacher sees it this way. So I'm having to adjust my worldview and have empathy for other people. That's really what we're trying to drive to, is this idea of building empathy, building resilience, building character, and doing it in a way that's really fun and exciting. We have this positioned in middle school very intentionally, because we think that that's kind of the spot where they figure out where they're going and who they're going to be in so many ways. So we've been able to pilot this program for several years at Lee Middle School initially, and they responded to it very, very well. We have a dean, Keenan Wooten, who was leading those classes, and they would often give him the class of students who have behavioral challenges, and by the end of the school year, by the end of the semester, you'd start to see those tides shift. And when I've had people ask me who the ideal student is for this, we meet those kids who have leadership qualities. It's just a question of which way they're going to lead. If I may make a little bit of a joke, and understanding this is public record, but I joke around about our 4-year-old. He's going to be a leader. Whether that is a Fortune 500 company or a prison gang, we're not entirely sure yet. But those skills are the same. Those leadership skills are the same. So how are we teaching them to channel that in a positive way? And so you were starting to see students who were tracking down the wrong road see that empowerment and leadership to take people in a more positive direction. And that's what we're hoping for and hope to see. So with that, our training and resources that accompany this program, we can't expect to hand a 1-semester course to the teachers in improv and say, good luck. So we have a 4-day professional development program that we run them through, and we did this last summer with 7 teachers. Right. And over those 4 days, we walk them through the entirety of the curriculum. So we play a lot of games. So I would invite you, if you want to come this summer and hang out with us and play some improv games to see what this looks like, we'd be so excited. And we run them through that. We have them make the connections, and we get them up on their feet doing the same thing with us. It does take a certain kind of teacher to do this, the ones that can build rapport with students. It takes a lot of energy. I went in and have taught 7 periods of this, and I took a nap when I got home because it was involved.
A lot of caffeine in that one.
Yes, but the beauty of it is because we have been able to stack the curriculum, you might have one day of teaching that way, and then the next day is more focused on tying it all back and bring it all together. There are also student-driven projects within this, so beyond just telling them about critical thinking and problem solving, We have them do a project where they walk around their school and find a problem in their school that they want to figure out how to solve. I may or may not have been bringing in my past in civic education for this and teaching them about looking at alternative policies and selecting the best policy to address their challenges. But we want them to really take these tools that we're giving them and put them into practice. How are you engaging with adults to talk about changes you want to make, and how are we empowering them to do that? So we have robust resources from the teachers. We do that in-person training. We are also here locally. We've gone out and visited at every school that this has been implemented at, and we hope to be able to continue that until we scale to a point where that becomes a challenge. But it's important to us. We love kids and going into the classroom and being able to play with them, play games with them, teach them something fun. And then we have an online portal as well where we have videos of every exercise that teachers can access, as well as discussion boards and other community support, just so that we've got them well taken care of. We want to make sure that they feel good going into this, and also build the community amongst the teachers who are teaching this, because it's a very small group, it's a niche group, and we want them to have each other to lean on.
Are you all in any other districts besides Manatee County?
No, this is our pilot
Or-
district,
okay.
so we are
That's what I
keeping it
thought.
home for now. And with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Fradley.
Here I am. Thank you so much.
Yes.
All right, so the next slide, so basically right now we're in 3 different schools. We're at Braden River, we're at Lee, and we are at King. All 3 schools delivered the model in just slight different ways. The Braden River model, they did 2 sections per semester, and they actually did some selection of students, students that they felt would be most served in a program like this. And so they actually selected those kids for those classes. Those classes right about 20 students a class. King Middle School funneled pretty much almost their entire 6th grade through the course. It was a part of the career clusters in technology and critical thinking. Do we find that? And critical thinking classes. And that was a year-long course. And then Lee Middle School had it as an elective. So in some ways, we were kind of fortunate to have 3 different models to see how they work best in our schools. The data that's down there, we looked at the percent of D's and F's. And the first graph that you see is it's the same students from 3rd quarter previous year to 3rd quarter this year. And you look at the percentage of students with D's and F's. So you can see in all aspects that less D's and F's this year, 3rd quarter than last year, which, if attendance is in check, behavior's in check, we anticipate to see grades to go up. So that was all our students. You can see it broken down by Braden River, King, and Lee. And then we looked at their peers. So the students that were in the program, the students that were not in the program. The data is not as wide there, but it does show that the level up students held their own or had less D's and F's than their non-disabled peers. Based on this, we are changing kind of what we're doing for next year. So we are in 3 schools last year. We're going to be in 7 schools this year, including Horizons. We're going to encourage the Braden River model. All right, that's the one that we found the most success, was really having these principals and administrative team kind of look at the type of student that was mentioned, these leaders that could go good or bad, right or wrong, but get them into this safe environment where they actually can experience the curriculum and have those opportunities to interact in a safe place. So we talked about the training, up to 10 teachers that'll be this summer. And the sport and surveying actually happens ongoing through Game On. And then our scope of work is, you can see what we're doing. We're basically looking at about 22 sections with 440 students. And that's what we're budgeting right now, drafting, right now to what we'll spend next year for the program, which is a little bit less than what we spent this year. So I think we've gotten smarter to see what works best, and then start this actually in 7 schools, kind of have a larger footprint with this program. And I have the opportunity to observe at King and at Braden River, and the kids, middle school is a strange animal.
Yeah.
It is. It just is. And these kids don't talk to each other. These are our COVID babies that were 5 and 6 years old, right? So they've grown up not knowing how to communicate. And to be able to act silly in a very safe way with people they don't even know, it's actually pretty powerful stuff. So I really enjoyed seeing that. Then we just kind of this worked well, I believe, when we had some testimonials back on a board workshop before. So here's some testimonials from some of our students, the first page. You got it? You want to take
Yes.
turns reading?
Absolutely.
All right.
I would recommend Game On to other people because it gets your brain running.
I like the journal because I like to draw and I can share feelings and emotions. I feel it helped me.
I learned the rules of life: laugh with, not at each other, celebrate small things, no talking when someone else is, and stay focused with a goal.
Some things I learned are to be helpful and nice to people and to not always have a short temper with people. That's what I'm going to take with me.
Preach, buddy. I learned to have each other's back. My experience with Game On was very cool.
And then we also asked the principals if they could give us just a little bit of feedback as well. Mr. Mullen said Game On Level Up has helped many of our students build better social skills, better communication skills, as well as boost their confidence during the difficult transition from elementary to middle school.
Ms. Cooper at Lee said the Game On Level Up program has been an extremely powerful addition to the work that we are doing at Lee Middle School, providing targeted mentorship and engaging in meaningful conversation or connections with our students. As a result, we're witnessing decreased absences, increased student engagement, and improved behavior. The program has proved to help our students level up both inside and outside the classroom.
And finally, Ms. Zenon at Braden River Middle School, Level Up has had a tremendous impact on students fortunate to take the course. The program empowered them to not only make better decisions during the school year, it will also help shape their future decisions as responsible, productive citizens within our county, state, and nation. Question?
Okay, so, board members,
Okay,
Mr. Choate
Quick
and
comment.
Ms. Felton.
yeah. So I've I guess first question before some comments. We're going to go the Braden River model. We're picking students and that sort of thing. Is it going to be the 2 classes still the semester, the way that their model was? Where it's what they have 2 sections per semester. So it's
Yes.
only a semester class for the students.
That is
Gotcha.
correct. That is correct. Now, it's going to look, the model of having it as a semester-long course, I believe there's one school that's going to have it a year-long course with the
Okay.
same students. And some schools might have 1 section, 2 sections, and actually, I was just notified yesterday, school
Right.
wants to do
Three-
3
yeah.
sections. It depends on their staffing.
Correct. Okay. Okay.
We've seen it done as a year-long curriculum this year at King Middle School as part of their study skills class, so those students who need some extra support. That was a fun one to go in and see how those students are thriving. And what was cool is some of them overlap in that 6th grade class as well, so they're getting 2 touch points of the curriculum. And with those students who are in study skills, it was really empowering for them because they've already played some of the games, so they get to be a leader in a class where
Yeah.
they don't normally get to feel that way.
Awesome.
And so it was actually really fun to see the kids in both classes the day I was there, and you saw them just kind of light up when they got to take a responsibility role. And again, that's not normally the seat they get placed in. So it was pretty touching for me as a parent.
In one of my visits at Lee, I got to walk in, and if board members, if you haven't gone in to one of the schools that have it, it obviously when we walk into classroom, we walk kind of in the middle of it, and we could be in the middle of instruction or whatever's going on, and we were right in the middle of a game, and so normally we walk into a classroom and the kids are looking, who are these people, whatever. They quickly looked, but then it was like right back to the game. Like they were so absorbed in what they were doing, which is great, right? I've had the experience working with Steve Schimbaum, who's the owner and developed all this kind of stuff, and through football at Manatee, and we had him come in, 20 years ago now. First time he came in during character development, and to see the kids' reactions, this is high school, so it's 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kids, but to see it then, you knew it was special what he was doing, and then of course he's blown up and he's all over the world now doing with NFL and craziness, right? So it didn't surprise me. I love the quote. Someone finally said it, and because this is something that I always took, was laugh with, not at, right? And that's one of his quotes is we laugh with, not at, and it's not putting someone else down, it's bringing them up, but in a fun and exciting way. So honestly, I think this is something that our students, of course, we hope they take the math and the English and the reading and all that kind of stuff with them throughout the rest of their lives, of course. But I think these are skills that those certain those subjects don't teach. And I think this is something that we're going to see pay dividends with our kids in the next several years. So I'm really excited. It's growing. Thank you guys for what you do. It's fun. It's awesome.
Appreciate that. And if you do go visit a classroom, I would just caution you that we're training the teachers to bring you into the exercise or game. So you will be playing.
Forewarned.
Yeah, we Mr. Fradley, or Dr.
I
Fradley
just
experienced
can't
it twice.
So you're not an
Scoot in the
observer,
back,
you're a
yeah.
participant by then. Ms. Felton?
Well, I was a 7th grade English teacher for 3 years.
Okay.
And Dr. Fradley's right. That's a different species. 7th graders are in particular. So are you looking at starting this with 6th grade?
That's a good question. So it's been used at all grade levels at this point. King ran all of their 6th grade students through it. Lee Middle School has had a model where they've had blended classes together as an elective program. What I would say about that is I think there's reasons to position it for 6th graders because they're just coming into middle school. They're the most awkward beast within middle school, if you will. But then there's something to those 8th graders who are getting ready to go to high school having some of these skills. So I think you could argue it just about any way. My only caution would be putting 6th graders and 8th graders in the same class can create, especially when you're asking them to be a little vulnerable, create some challenges. So I'd say if you're doing it grade adjacent, 6-7, 7-8, or isolated grade levels.
You say 6-7?
I did say 6-7.
Love
And
it.
in the back of my head, I'm going,
Love it.
yeah, I got
Love
you.
it.
So that would be my note, is just trying to keep it to where you don't have 6 through 8 in the room, but you can have those blended grade levels.
And we do want to give the principals the autonomy to
Totally.
To make those
really
decisions.
have some thought into it, because they're 6th graders, they don't really know yet, but they're 8th graders, they definitely do, and would know what students would benefit the most.
What I really like about this, and this was something that as an English teacher that I was really encouraging administration and other teachers to push, is the reading, the writing, the speaking, and the listening. Right? You have to do all 4 of those. It's part of ELA, and we want all subject areas to do all of those 4 things as well, because you can't just rely on English class for this, right? And this does all of those things. You come in, you write in your journal, you have to read with the prompts, you have to do some of the reading in the book. Obviously the speaking and listening, we got to experiment with that up here. So I really like all of those components that we're always trying to push into other subject areas being part of this curriculum. In my own experience, it was always the Mrs. Felton show. Right, in school. I mean, it didn't matter if I was teaching middle school or high school. It was the Mrs. Felton show, so you keep them engaged. They're paying attention. And I would go home every day for all of 9 years of teaching and take a nap because it was the show, right? And I really love the improv aspect. I have some theater background, and I used improv in my classes, particularly at high school level. When I was teaching plays, they would improv what was going on. I'm like, okay, here's the scene, go. And they would just make up the words, and I'm like, okay, Horatio's meeting Hamlet. They haven't seen each other in a while. And they're doing fist bumps and hey, bro, and hugs and whatever they do. And so it was structured improv, but they had a great time with it. And every day they would come in and say, are we doing that today?
Yeah.
Because they loved it so much. It was their favorite part of the school year. And I still have kids that I run into and go, I remember when we did Hamlet and it was the coolest thing and da-da-da. And it's been 5-6 years, and they still remember that improv stuff, and being able to think and having to respond and listen to the other person and respond to them was so engaging that they remembered it 5 years later. So this really excites me, particularly as it was those kids who were like on the cusp of, are they going to use their powers for good or use their powers for evil?
Totally.
And they were on the cusp of that, and it really engaged them. And kids who hated English suddenly loved coming to my class. And I can see how this would be hugely beneficial, again, having taught 7th grade, how this can be hugely beneficial for those kids to keep them engaged. And I have kids that I taught in middle school that I'm like, oh my gosh, this would have been so great for them.
Yeah.
Because they were on that, they're a leader, but which kind of leader are they going to be? And unfortunately, some of them went the wrong way.
Yeah.
So I am just really excited about this. I can't wait to come and see it in action, and I definitely want to come visit this summer.
Appreciate that. Yeah, and we appreciate the trust around this too. And you said something I think is really important. Where it's improv and it's fun, we also wanted to make sure it's put into a structure. We're big believers that structure sets you free to be more creative. So as we piloted this, I'll acknowledge it was a little loosey-goosey at the front, if you will, for lack of a better term. But being able to structure it into the guide and the student journal and evolve it, and to your point of being able to do this in a cross-curricular way, we always encourage the teachers too, as they're moving through this, if there's an opportunity to bring in your language arts teacher to talk through some of this, the exercise you played, last letter, first letter, we're having them expand their vocabulary, use different words. We've got a lot of language-driven exercises in this to where they're having to write out scenes and build their own superhero and write out all their powers and everything. So it was important to us, and my background is in social studies. We always had to figure out how to be cross-curricular. So that was important to us as we developed this, to make sure it wasn't just about character education, but that is the number one thing they walk away with. Because when all things are equal, what gets somebody the job? If all the resumes are the same, it's how you present yourself, it's how you show up. And we want them to feel empowered to show up authentically as themselves, but in a way that they can be proud of.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yeah, thank you. Aaron, thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you.
And to the superintendent team, this is really great for the public to become more aware of and for the board to be more aware of. Kind of like Chad said, I worked at IMG a lifetime ago and met Steve back then. And I always knew that guy was going places because Steve is just a force of nature. And it's just really exciting to see how far Game On has come and is now a partner with us. I do have a question about kids opting in versus being selected for the program. And then as we go forward into from 3 to 7 schools, and Chuck, maybe this is a question for both of you, but what is that going to look like, and what will that look like for the next school year? And then also, what have you learned from our previous experience about kids who choose to be there and then kids who are kind of selected because of discipline issues or whatever the case may be?
I'll attempt to answer those questions. Well, I think at the end of the day, it's really going to come up to what that principal sees as their best way to deliver the program on their site. The recommendation that we are making about, hey, just kind of have a critical eye for the students that would benefit from this program, doesn't mean that's the only kids that are going to enter that class. So you can see at Lee, they had it as an elective based. Anybody that wanted it, they chose the elective, where at Braden River was kind of, hey, this is a good program for you. I kind of see it as a combination of both at these schools moving forward. I don't have enough actual data from the principals to say, yes, it worked. Every child that chose that elective did great in it, or at Braden River, yes, every child that we kind of had go in that class did it, because those students didn't choose the program because of the program. We put them in the class and the program was there to help them, right? So they just experienced it. I'd have to ask Miss Cooper, at Lee about that elective situation, but when we looked at the data, and we'll have better data to give to you next year, because the challenge this year is we had 3 different ways of delivery model. Right. And so it made it very difficult to pull out, more types of data to show. By us kind of encouraging the most effective and efficient model that we saw this year based on the data, let's try this next year. We're gonna have better data to show you. And probably some more examples of how these principals actually put kids in the class and the feedback that we get from them. So I'll have a better answer for you in a year from now on that, for sure, 100%. But I think we're moving in definitely the right direction with this, because there's bubble kids, that really aren't on one or the other, but they're going to benefit from talking with other kids and acting out and being silly. And then obviously we're incorporating all the academics in it as well. So did a terrible job answering your question.
No, that's a fair answer.
We will have better data to share next year.
No, it's not an apples to apples between schools, so I get that.
And I would say we've seen Lee in the initial pilots had a choosing versus electing dynamic that happened. So we were able to compare. I think the beauty of what happened, and granted, it's not like every class, every kid left with a raving review, because you're not going to please everybody.
Of course.
But part of the demand signal of creating it as an open elective is the kids that were choiced into it enjoyed it so much that other kids heard about it and are like, how do I get in there? Do I just have to get in trouble? And we don't want that to be an incentive. You know what I mean? So if you open it up as an elective, now they have a waiting list for that elective, which is fantastic. So some of the kids that were choosing into it, or were told, they're voluntold, if you will, to go into that elective, were touting it so much that they found a need to open up sections. So that's kind of the beauty of
Yeah,
that.
and if I can just touch one more piece on that, because these children are figuring out who they are, right? And they'll go down different paths to take risks and try to choose who they're going to be. The administration and the staff, the teachers on site, you know, they see these kids. They know what these kids can and can't do. And so in our world, we're going to be a little proactive in identifying these kids before they identify themselves, and maybe it's too late and they've made a bad choice, right? So I think that is one of the powerful reasons to place kids in the class where it's appropriate, to get them before they do something that they just can't come back from.
Exactly. Madam Chair, I just have one more
Sure.
point, and that's, I really appreciate that the district is investing in something that is beneficial to the students, but is not necessarily tested by the state. Because so much has been pushed out to focus on positive test results, and our district has shown positive results in that area. But you know, it's sad. There's no FSA for empathy or self-control or things like that, and which are, you know, especially for middle school and early high school age kids. I don't want to paint with a broad brush, but you know, they could use these skills that you're teaching. So you know, we're going from 3 to 7, and down the road maybe it's something we're doing in half of our schools, our middle and high schools. So once again, thanks for being here, and this has been a really interesting and positive update. Thank you.
Thank you for the time.
Thanks, Madam.
Thank you. Mr. Caden.
Good morning.
Good morning.
That was interesting. I was reading a Wall Street Journal article the other day on education, and I was looking through the comments, and there was a guy, and he made the comment something to the effect of, yeah, all the humanities courses I took in college are just good for doing crossword puzzles. And I thought, I wonder what it's like to hang out with a guy like that, you know? Like, he doesn't see the value of the human relations. You can just tell by that comment, right, that for whatever reason, this guy doesn't understand that, especially the higher you go in leadership, it becomes much more about your people skills and much less about your STEM skills. So I'm very enthused that we're doing this. If you go back and look at the humanities and talking about how to become a virtuous person, all the way from Aristotle forward, it talks about habits and habits and habits and developing habits, right? So if we start them in middle school and we start these habits of listening and the things that you're teaching them in this course here, that will hopefully, it's not a guarantee, but it will hopefully produce a better human being down the road, because they will have developed these habits early in their lifetime in their moral and mental development. So I'm very much in favor of whatever we can do here in this area, and they will be better people and better leaders down the road because you got them early in their moral and, what would you call it, human development. So good on you, and I'm glad that we're doing this program, and that's all I have to say about that. Thanks.
I have a few comments. Nice to, other people like sports with a ball. I like NASCAR. There's no balls in NASCAR. It's just go, go, go. And I see that there's corporations, PepsiCo, that's my former
Yes, ma'am.
employer. So, and then NASA, I'm a big fan of NASA. So I like that you have that history with this program. On the slide with the graphs. Okay, Braden, River King, and Middle. First you said something about, or somebody said structure. Well, to me, structure means build. And that could be in building a building, or building structure in relationships, and building structure in communications. So that was just one of those buzzwords that came to my mind. Building structure equals, building to me. How are the teachers who does this class determined? Do they offer to do that, or is it one of those you select? I don't know.
Teacher, principal select.
The principal select,
Principal selects the
but does the teacher go to the principal and say, hey, I'd like to do this program?
Dr. Bradley, can I jump in?
Please do.
So before Dr. Bradley joined the district and we were working and planning with Game On, Game On held a session for the principals who were interested in participating in the pilot, explained what was the pilot was about. I think Aaron went out to visit with the principals to show them what the program was, to give them the information to then select a teacher that would meet the characteristics that they were looking for. So there was a lot of conversation before those teachers were selected.
Okay, and then students, the way we select the students. So you're saying this is going to be an elective course that you
Correct.
thought that would probably be the best, but is there a recommendation from a teacher, counselor at that school saying, you know, hey, you have some issues here, you know, to keep you in line with your education process, we would recommend that you take this elective?
That's the direction that we want to go with
Right.
putting the students in this. So teacher input, we have our guidance counselors, obviously we have our administration team, the deans and the SSSs. They will all be adding, you know, names to the list, you know, basically, I guess. Not that every child's going to be able to get in or not get in, but that's where they're going to really focus on the right child to put in the course.
Okay, and then,
And Mrs. Spray, we also
ahead.
look at the student data. You know, we run
Right.
our attendance reports
Our
and
discipline.
that was going to be my next question. Are you doing that based on I know you did the grading, the DFs, but are we doing attendance as well?
attendance as well.
Yes.
Huge piece is we're looking for students who maybe are not engaged totally in their education, demonstrated by lack of attendance. And if that's a way to help solve their comfort or desire to be attending school, then that's a measure we would take.
And
Okay.
you said it right when you said structure, and I think foundation, basically the same kind of thing. And the attendance and discipline is that foundation that grades do build upon. So that is the big focus.
Then I have to talk the money side, of course. On the 2026 school year, you showed that we're going to be adding Lincoln, Palmview, and Horizons, which I think Horizons is a great idea to get into that school. Scope of work, 22 sections
Yes, ma'am.
impacting 440 students. So the materials is 110. PL, remind me of PL?
That's the summer training that the teachers
Okay.
will be attending.
Okay.
Up to 10.
So
4 days
basically,
of
that's
training. Yes.
the teacher training
Yes, ma'am.
course during the summer. Okay, I gotcha. And then it's 140. Okay. I'm a strong believer of this program. I know I went to their ceremony, Mr. Wooten did. And I've known Mr. Wooten for several years, and he's a big supporter of this. And I think he did say we need to add more schools the first time he told me about it. And I'm like, yeah, you're probably right. But here we are now, a couple of years later, and adding and adding and adding. So I'm in 100% support for this. So consensus, I would guess that we're all in line with this. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, and to Aaron and Jake and Steve, and to Kevin Chapman, who made the introduction originally. I had no idea what the program was, and full transparency, I did think they were trying to sell a video program, and I was not at all interested. And they said, no, that's not what we're about. But since then, they said, here's what we think we could do for your schools. I said, here's what we need for our classrooms and our teachers. And they rose to the challenge and produced, met beyond my expectations as to what we can do differently to really change the trajectory for some of our middle school students at that pivotal point. So I'm grateful that they're here in our community and they're willing to give back so much time and efforts to help our students.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the time and
Thank you.
opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 4.2 is proposed changes to the student progression plan. I'm guessing we're shifting some staff at the table?
Yes, ma'am, board members. We have Derek Jensen, Deputy Director or Deputy Superintendent. I've just changed his title. Deputy Superintendent for our Instructional Division to walk us through the updates to the student progression plan. And he'll walk through the timeline as well. This is your first introduction to the changes for this year, but you'll have additional conversation as we move forward.
Okay.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, Chair, board members, Superintendent Breslin. I'm happy to be with you today. Unfortunately, I did not bring any games to review the student progression plan revisions and recommendations for you, but I can vouch for how high quality our Game On classrooms are. They're a really inspiring place to visit. The last time I visited, I can also vouch that they will pull you into the games. And I believe I was the first one eliminated in the game I played, so.
Intentionally?
No. So the student progression plan is a really critical document, and every school district has one, and it defines the criteria for things like enrollment, graduation, participation in graduation, promotion, remediation, course offerings, student performance, reporting, all the dimensions of the academic programs of the district. And it's really grounded in the law, and it's grounded in our current local needs and procedures. And so every year we go through a process where all of the departments look at changes in state board rule, changes in law, changes in practices, local recommendations, things we've been wanting to look at and accomplish. We compile those, discuss them, and make recommendations for updates to the SPP. You should all have a folder in front of you, or a binder in front of you. You have a change log, which is a stapled document in the pocket, which has all of the changes documented with kind of line by line, every small and big change we've made throughout the SPP. And then that translates directly into your binder. So your binder is the redlined version of the document, and you can see the page numbers should match where the changes are. And then we've also put like sticky notes
Yeah.
on some of the big
looking
changes
something.
that we'll discuss as part of the presentation today. So what I'll be doing is going through, I'm actually going to go through the whole change log. The small changes I'll talk about very quickly, and then the big changes will linger on a little more, and that's also where your tabbed pages are. But you have access to all of this through the change log and the binder, and then all of this was posted online as well. Okay? And these are the notable language changes. So these are the tabbed sections of your binder that we'll go through. And like I said, the change log is much longer. It encapsulates these changes plus some smaller ones. So for instance, like the table of contents, the very first line was edited. We removed references to an appendix. We haven't had an appendix in a number of years, so all of that was taken out. And then we also updated the admission enrollment section. We removed a paragraph talking about students who wanted to enroll in our district from out of county. That was old language, and it is not necessary anymore because of the new controlled open enrollment processes we have across the state, where if there's capacity at a school, a student can choose to apply to go there. The first large change is on page 8. That's the grade placement section. And I've also, in the slide, pasted kind of the clean version of it for your review too, so you can see it displayed on the slide. Essentially, in an effort to help our schools when they have students who come to register, this is kind of in the registration part of the SPP. When a student shows up to register and they have an absence of educational records, or their records reflect an age discrepancy of 2 years or more, this is a table that's designed to help schools and assist them in best grade level placement for the students. There's also some language underneath this in the redlined document talking about grade 1 entry requirements, kindergarten being an entry requirement for grade 1, and that's below this as well in your book. But you can see this is a table that basically shows their age before September 1st of that year and kind of the best appropriate placement in the absence of those educational records. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so I'm reading the edition down here. And I'm getting lost in the language. Can you kind of layman's terms this for me?
What, in the language underneath grade placement?
Yeah, the grade 1 entry requirements, any child who will attain the age of 6 years on or before September 1st of the school year
Sure.
shall be admitted to grade 1 at any time during the school year if the child has successfully completed the kindergarten program or has otherwise met the criteria for admission or transfer in a manner similar to that applicable to other grades. The completion of kindergarten is defined as satisfactory completion in a public school, non-public school, or home education program from which SDMC accepts transfers of credit. So am I understanding that if they have satisfied the kindergarten requirements at any point during a school year, they can go into first grade?
If they're 6 years on
If
or
they're 6
before
years or on.
September 1st.
Okay.
This is, and again, a lot of these decisions are made in consultation with families, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just we're blindly promoting or moving students. The real purpose of this paragraph is kindergarten is a requirement in the state of Florida. So statute says you have to pass kindergarten, meet the kindergarten benchmarks. And so this helps identify that as a requirement for promotion to first grade.
Okay. So if a kindergartner turns 6 and they have, they're obviously above ability, maybe they did early learning or whatever, can they transfer into first grade, or do they have to, or
If they've met the requirements.
if they've met the requirements
of
from wherever they're
kindergarten.
coming from?
There's a variety of assessments and measures we could look at to see if they've met those exit requirements for
Okay.
kindergarten.
I got you.
But that would be, again, in consultation with the family, and those situations are pretty rare.
Yeah, the reason I asked is because I encountered somebody who was upset that their grandchild who could read when they were 4 years old was not allowed to go into first grade and had to complete all of kindergarten, even though they could pass all the assessments. So
Again,
so
I
I
would
was
need
just
to look at the
I know.
individual
So
assessments.
that
It's
that
in
was just something that
consultation
stuck
with
in
the
my
family.
head of having that conversation, and I don't know if the child was 6 years old or not. But if they were, that was something that was sticking in my head. So that was just why I was asking.
And it is 6 years old before September 1.
Right.
And I would just say that we have many kindergartners who come in reading. So our teachers do an excellent job with those extension above grade level activities as well.
Okay, thank you.
I had a question for you on the same paragraph.
Yes, ma'am.
Is on or before September 1st a state law?
Yes.
Or is it, okay? Because,
It's in the statute.
okay, because maybe that's something I need to work on. I think it's kind of crazy that we start our school year August 10th, and then if that student isn't 6 years old until September 1st or 2nd, they've lost that month. That's the way I'm thinking. Maybe I'm thinking wrong, but if they cannot attend until they're 6 years old, and they're not that by September 1st,
I think if they will attain the age of 6 before September 1, and they've met the kindergarten standards, they could be 5 and go into first grade if they will attain the age of 6
attain.
by September 1.
Correct.
Okay, so that's the key right there. Will attain by September 1st.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That makes me feel a little better about that.
That's not new. I mean, none
I
of
know
that
that's not-
language isn't new.
Yeah.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Well, I was one
Yeah.
of those kids that had that January.
Like I was September 26th, my son's September, so we were always moving 6 in the kindergarten. So we were always the oldest in the
Me too.
class. Yeah.
October.
So I think it's always been that way.
Yeah, this is very much
Yeah.
grounded in Florida law, this section. The nebulous
Okay.
part is kind of when you get to the overage students or students who are lacking educational records.
Oh, okay.
State law kind of defaults to district local progression plans at that point.
Gotcha.
Okay, at the time, my mind was kind of backwards on that because I'm like, okay, wait a minute. All right, so if they attain it, because I was one of those kids that was a late starter. I was the oldest in first grade almost because all these other kids were, yeah.
Sure.
So,
Absolutely, and that's absolutely normal, developmentally appropriate. It's when we get into, a student shows up without any kind of educational history, and we want to make sure we're accurately placing them to make sure they don't fall multiple years
right.
behind a cohort, for instance. I will say that creating this table made me feel very old, knowing that the students who will be graduating in a few weeks were born in 2008.
Yeah,
Oh, my goodness.
for sure, teacher.
What's that time? Ms. Belton, another question?
Yeah, now the last I looked, and I just tried to pull it up and on the internet, and I don't like to trust AI, so I'm verifying this with the attorneys. Kindergarten is not mandatory in the state of Florida, is that right? I mean, because that's what I found in the statutes from 2025. Compulsory age is turning 6.
6 to 16.
Yeah, 6 to 16. So you're not required to attend kindergarten in the state of Florida. So that's why I was confused on some of this wording as well, because, and you know, if you guys want to double check me on that, but that's what and when I was up at the legislature, that was also something that we discussed up there, is that I was told that kindergarten is not mandatory in the state of Florida.
I'll follow up with all of you. I think I think we might be getting just hung up on this age threshold between kindergarten and first grade, and just kind of making sure we're cohorting students appropriately. So I'll get back to you on this and follow up with an email.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Jensen, can you speak up or?
Oh,
Yeah,
sure.
that's all right. Okay.
All right, next up, I believe it is page 9. We have school enrollment. This is, again, documenting some procedure into the SPP, just about, it already had some enrollment information about the enrolling parent, et cetera. This just codifies that the parents, you know, we have an enrolling parent, both parents are listed on the pickup list unless disqualified. School administration will not intervene in disputes between parents, and those must be resolved in a different forum, typically a court of law or similar. Basically just helps codify kind of what goes on, you know, parents going on the pickup list and having access to pick up children.
That's a good change.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I just have a quick question here on the enrolling parent issue, and this is kind of fresh on my mind because we have a situation at a school we're dealing with 2 shared custody enrolling parents. And in a conversation with the parent last night, he said to me that on the district's form, there's only room for 1 enrolling parent. Is that true?
Correct. Well, we recognize one enrolling parent in the district.
And this is a little bit off topic, but as long as we're talking about enrolling parents. So when you have, and obviously the district adheres to any court order in a family law case like that.
Correct.
Is there, I guess, just specifically to the situation, is there any benefit to having 2 enrolling parents on that form? Is it statutory? I didn't even know this was an issue until this thing popped up a couple days ago.
I believe that having 1 enrolling parent is imperative to be sure that we're running best as a school district, but I think also there's some legal concerns to consider, and I'm going to ask Mr. Penley or Mr. Dye to just weigh in briefly into the reason why we have 1 enrolling parent as a designation as a school district.
You have 1 enrolling parent because you have to have someone to make a decision. The school board is not a party to parental placement orders. That's to be determined by courts and between the parties to that case. We're not a party in that case. So we follow those orders to the point that they're specific if they direct one parent to do something versus the other. But we're not bound by those orders. So when students are in our custody and care during the school day, we're responsible for their health, safety, and welfare in loco parentis. So we are going to do what's in the best interest of the student in the circumstances.
Yeah.
I don't want to go into any specifics of a particular case that you might be
Nor do I.
referencing. It's not appropriate here, but you know, the courts enforce their orders, not the schools.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes a lot of sense, and that was kind of my understanding. I'll talk to you both offline.
Sure.
Because it did raise some interesting issues about enrolling parents, because they are, in this case, It's an equal split. The court says it's 50-50.
I just disagree with you on your interpretation of that. We'll discuss that
Okay,
offline.
fair enough, fair
if
enough.
we could.
Okay, thank you.
Oh.
Thank you, Mr. Penn.
So that brings up a question for me that, for you, Mr. Penley, if a court order says that if there is that joint custody, that's basically what we're talking about, that each parent has a say in the enrolling student, then we would have to adhere to that.
We don't police or enforce court orders. So if a parent shows up and enrolls a student, our duty is to enroll the student. If there's a dispute about which school or which parent gets to make that choice, that's for courts to make the determination, not the schools.
Okay. All right. I just want to clarify that because I know what you're talking about. So.
There's even that with married husband and wife. Like, my wife was always the enrolling parent.
Correct.
And so I can't call and make a change, even though, shoot, that secretary and that principal may know me. Like, I'm still not the enrolling parent. And so but I get the law, I get legal, but it is frustrating. And I can see if a split home, it could be even probably more frustrating. But, yeah, I mean, I agree. We just got to follow what the courts say.
Mr. Tatum, did you have a question? Or are you all right?
No, I'm not a lawyer, but I've watched a couple of these over the years. They pop up once in a while, and it's. I agree with Mr. Penley in the sense that we have to have one person that makes a decision, right? If you read through those orders, a lot of times it just says they both have the right to make decisions, but it's basically up to the two of them to figure it out between them, and then to have one person come and make the decision, right? So we're not required to. We have to make a decision about John Smith. Well, we got to call John Smith's mom and John Smith's dad, even though maybe they're not married anymore, and then, well, who gets to make the decision? We can't operate like that, right? So that the wording in those orders, and unfortunately I've been through one of those myself, is that yeah, both parents have responsibility, but it's up to them to figure out how to make that work, and for the courts to police that, as Mr. Penley said, and then but one parent has to be designated after they've talked to parents and make a decision. So otherwise it would be impossible for us to operate. Right. So thanks for your explanation, Mr. Penley. Did I say anything that you don't agree with or out of line or anything? Or
That is entirely correct.
okay, thank you very much. I've been watching Law and Order.
Pass your bar exam essay question on
There you go.
Thank you, sir, very much.
Ms. Fountain?
I appreciate very much the addition of both parents are listed, then either parent can designate individuals. I mean, there's emergencies out there. What happens if the enrolling parent is sick and cannot
Right.
call and say, hey, we need to add another person because, we're at the hospital or whatever. There's always those off things, or there's a car, whatever. And because I was the enrolling parent, but so if something had happened or I was gone or whatever, my husband should be able to, as the other parent who still lives in the house, be able to say, hey, so-and-so's going to pick the kid up because I'm stuck somewhere, or whatever. So I really appreciate that change. I think that will make things a lot smoother for our families, because little things happen all the time, and we need to be able to accommodate those needs.
Mr. Penley, did you have a opinion on that?
Just, Madam Chair, if I might add to that explanation, there's a difference between designating emergency contacts, being an enrolling parent, and having access to records. Those are three separate and very distinct issues in the law. You can have, unless a court divests a parent of access to parental rights, that parent can have access to records all day long. It doesn't affect the enrolling parent's responsibility for designating pickups, drop-offs, that sort of thing. And if there's a dispute between warring parents over that, the courts are the appropriate place to determine who's in contempt and who is following the law, not the school principal.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Mr.
On to
Jansen.
the next. The next one is on page 11. It's the addition of a new section around, kind of underneath the entry from home education section that creates the option for a personalized education program and private pay option to take courses on campus. Again, this is an as space available option, but students, we're continuing to develop programming and opportunities for students on these scholarships to access our courses on that private pay basis. And so this kind of codifies it into the student progression plan. And we'll have more information for the board and the public on this, on these opportunities soon.
That's good.
We're going to quickly roll through a number of the changes that aren't the major changes. Page 11 talks about overage students. It just adds a few words to clarify what a break in educational service is. Page 12 and 13 takes some language from some existing procedures around school choice and school selection and admission and puts them in the SPP, specifically language around attendance and behavior requirements in order to keep or be awarded a school choice option. So some you need to be in good academic standing, essentially. Page 16 and 17 are just grammar and formatting edits. And then page 24, we just deleted the last bullet about notifying families of New World scholarships. Those New World scholarships weren't funded by the state. So New World's reading is. So New World's reading program you're familiar with, that is in the SPP. It's something we send to our families and make available to our families. But the New World scholarship is being removed from the SPP because it's not a program. And then page 34, we added some language to summer school. We actually changed the heading from summer school promotion to summer school because we added this section. It essentially adds the summer bridge program to the SPP. So this is a program that's required by state law. If you are a pre-K student coming from a early education program and you are you meet a certain threshold to show that you're not kindergarten ready yet, we invite you to a summer program in order to help build those skills to prepare you for kindergarten readiness, and that's what the summer bridge program is. And so this codifies that into the SPP.
Oh, wow. So it's basically 4 hours of instruction per day for a minimum of 100 hours.
Correct. So a minimum of 25 days, essentially.
Okay. All right. It's good. Okay.
The next smaller edits, page 35, we just deleted some more language about New World scholarships. Page 38, you'll see this throughout the document, but there's a few places where we had references to enrolling in Manatee Virtual School. We changed those to just virtual school because we
Okay.
can't require students to take one type of virtual school over another. So we just changed Manatee Virtual references in a few places to just virtual school. Page 48, we updated some placement criteria for World Languages 2 courses in middle school. Again, a very small change. And then pages 50 and 54, we made a small change to the semester exam makeup window for both middle and high school. It essentially changes a 10-day limit to a 5-day limit. So you have 5 days now to make up a semester exam, but it adds the qualifier unless approved by the school administrator. So it still gives our schools flexibility to handle unique situations and provide makeup opportunities outside of that window for students. But this will allow us to post grades in a more timely fashion and finalize grades in a more timely fashion.
So you change it from 10 days to 5.
And added the administrator approval if you want to take one outside of that.
Okay.
And then it also added a little language about using a semester 2 exam grade in the place of a semester 1 exam grade where appropriate. The next small changes, you have page 50, again, some small placement criteria changes, things like level 3 to proficient, some more virtual changes. We added ACE, AP, and IB to exams that are required to be taken. And then we added some language about making sure students who want to pursue dual enrollment meet with their school counselor in order to get recommendations on, course enrollment and course selection. So they're, building a program effectively. Then page 67. This has been an existing procedure, but just hasn't been in the SPP. It adds students who wish to enroll in courses from multiple post-secondary institutions are limited to a total of 11 credit hours per semester. Most of our students take their dual enrollment courses through one post-secondary institution. This is just to help students who are mixing and matching realize that they need to stay within a credit hour limit. Then we, page 73, added some processes for logging volunteer hours. And then the last major change was on page 74. It is currently a state board rule under development, but we expect it to be finalized. It basically says that you can't earn a concordance score for your ELA assessment in 10th grade until you've attempted the PM3 of 10th grade. So what was happening was some students were taking like 10th grade PSAT, right? And you could theoretically earn a concordance score before you take PM3. There's still very good reasons to do well on the PM3, but the perception is that it creates a conflict of interest. So this is a new state board rule under development. We fully expect it to be implemented, which is why we included it in this draft of the SPP.
I just want to go back to page 73 for a moment.
Sure.
So, community service hours, we have our own specific form that students have to use for that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Because I wasn't aware of that, because I know some students that helped last weekend, and they wanted to log those community hours, but I guess we should probably keep those forms readily available to them, so when they're out and about. Yeah.
Yes, they usually every time I've been in a school, they have them up in the counselors area on the high school campuses.
Okay.
You can also get them online, but that is how we document, because of course they're able to use those hours to qualify for Bright Futures.
Right.
And so we have to have a paper trail of those hours, so that when we put them in our system, we have the backup as to why we gave the student the credit for those volunteer hours. There's money attached, so that has to be a paper trail.
Right, there has to be a paper trail. And those forms are approved by the principal or by the person that, somebody that they did the community hours for, or do they sign off on that as well?
Yes, ma'am. So there is a spot for whomever sponsors that activity to sign. Some
Okay.
students, perhaps one of my own children, would wait until the end and go back. We would recommend that students bring them to the activities so that they can be signed at the time, but that doesn't always happen.
Right, right. Okay, that's good to know. Something I might could have in my car.
Yeah.
When
Absolutely.
I have students that are willing to show up at events that I recruited to help.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, through the principal, by the way. It's always been through the principal, so. Okay, sorry, I just want to get clarification for that.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Finally, on page 87, there were some small changes for deadlines for virtual education programs, which makes it more flexible and school-based in setting those deadlines.
Okay.
And then that concludes all the changes to the SPP for this year, or the recommended changes. It wasn't we're happy with the current state of the document, so it wasn't too many significant changes throughout. Obviously, today we're doing this presentation of those proposed changes. We would bring this to you to the first board meeting in June for approval to advertise a notice of intent to amend this document. That notice runs for at least 30 days. We put it in the paper. And then in July, that July 21 board meeting, we would then have our final approval of the student progression plan. And we'll do this alongside the code of conduct too. We run those two documents simultaneously, which is why you're getting to see the draft changes in both of them today. And then we make any changes leading up to the 9th, and then we do that approval and advertising process.
Board members?
Any questions?
Ms. Felton? No? Everybody? Mr. Kennedy?
Yeah, I just have two quick questions. I'm looking for question number 2 because I passed it and didn't mark it. But I'll start with Mr. Jensen. I'm on page 55 about the high school grading formula for semester grades. And I'm glad to see that quarter 1 40, quarter 2 40, semester exam 20. Memory serves that used to be 30%. So I'm glad it's down to 20. I'm not sure what board knocked that down to 20, but
So I think it was 20% unless it was an EOC tested area.
that's
And
fine.
then it
That's
was
right.
the 30. But the EOC still represents 30% of the course grade, but the semester exam goes to 20 like every other course.
yeah. And that the EOC courses, that 30%, is that required by statute?
Yes.
That has to be 30. Okay, that's what I thought. And then my second question, and I don't have a page number for you because like I said, I passed it, but it's about the graduation options. So the student, when they enroll as a freshman in high school, do they somewhere make that designation, or how does that work? Does it default to the 24 credit option? And then if they want to do the CTE or what's the third option? It's also 18 credits.
The Excel option, is that one? you're
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about?
Do they make that decision when they enroll in ninth grade? I mean, obviously, I saw in the language they can fill out a form to change their option, but
Correct. I would say most of your students entering ninth grade are in the 24 credit option.
Yeah.
And then those, based on course performance, based on need, based on family situation, based on data, we're working with that student and that family to help consult with them and provide them options when, they express a desire to take a different path.
okay. So they essentially, and I'm probably using the wrong language, so you guys can help me out here, but it defaults when they enroll. It defaults to the 24 credit option,
Correct.
and then they have to actively pursue the 16 or the 18.
Correct, but it's a partnership because we will also reach out and, especially with students who obviously display other academic interests or needs or, that kind of ongoing partnership with their school counselor, with their teachers, and with their school administrators. That's how we help them identify their pathway through high school. Miss Lyon sitting behind me and Miss Scarborough, they're constantly visiting with our high school administrators. They have regular meetings set up with them where they go and they look at the entire graduating cohort for those schools. And they're going year by year. So the cohort that's graduating, our seniors this year, but also our juniors and our sophomores and our freshmen. And they're looking at all of those students in their cohort, and they're working with the administrators to make sure all of those students are on track for graduation. And if they're not on track, do we have a plan to support that student? And, are there other programs, interests, and needs that those students have expressed an interest in? And that's kind of our top level check. And then the schools are working with students and families individually
Micro level.
to make those recommendations or have those conversations around options. But,
Okay.
the majority of our students are on the 24.
Got it. Thank you. Thanks for the explanation. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Anyone else? Mr. Tatum?
Can we look at I think it's page, let's see here. 12, in my book at least, 12 and 13 about the dress code.
Oh,
Yeah,
you may be in the
let's
wrong
go to
document,
conduct.
Mr. Tatum.
That's code of conduct.
Oh, okay. So all right, I got it.
Yeah.
We'll get to that next.
But we're looking at, okay, I got it. All right, thanks.
Code of conduct progression. Very different.
Yeah, this is the workshop where we may give you the most paper and the most binders. I apologize.
And this is just
No,
the
it's
beginning.
important.
We've got a whole summer of this.
Yeah, I was looking
Oh.
at this page right here, though, but, okay. All right, I got it. All right, thanks.
You okay? Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for putting that together. I know it takes a lot of effort to read every line and do the editing and tracking the markups, and most of it is, a lot of mechanical things that you had to do. It is now, board members, it's 11:20. I think we'll probably do a recess for 10 minutes.
Okay.
All right, so we are in recess.
Thank you.
And we are back now, and we are going on to item number 4.3, Student Code of Conduct.
Good morning, Madam Chair and board members and Superintendent Breslin. We are excited to share with you your last item of this morning, the Student Code of Conduct. I would like to point out that we have color-coded your placements in here, and specifically some orange and blue at the bottom. Dr. Breslin, you're welcome. Please don't let all of the tabs be daunting to you. In the last 2 years, we've really been working to streamline the document, place things in what we think makes sense for the ease of using the document, as well as ease of using it, and also adding in statutory language where appropriate. So we'll be similarly to Mr. Jensen. We'll show you some of those change logs. Every change log does have a color and number that we will go with. So we do have a key even. So the pink I have to look at our key. Our pink is anything that is reordered, just put in a different spot. The green is any added language. The orange is state statute language, and then the blue is just reworded language. So just to let you know those different items, and that's how we color coded it, kind of for our ease as well to go through. We'll highlight major changes, and then we can get into anything more specific if you have questions about it.
Very clever.
Thank you. I try and make sure that I follow directions from my boss. She likes things colored, so I will take care of that.
I
So our
appreciate that. It makes it easier. Thank you for the added details.
Tell we're all teachers here.
So our first thing just to share with you is how we have communicated this. I really need to turn this over, a lot of it, to Ms. Lyon, our Director of Student Services, and her team, because they set up many work groups along the way that included our staff, our administrators that work directly in the schools. We have principals, APs, et cetera, that work within the schools. And they look at those in smaller things and bring recommendations back to a larger committee. We had numerous internal committee meetings and then large community meetings that included not only parents but students as well. So all of these different changes have been vetted through all of the constituencies that would be affected by the Code of Conduct. So try to make it a very transparent operation for those who are interested in learning more. Some notable language changes we'll go through. So we'll go ahead and start and talk about some things that we made sure that we entered in. So if you want to look at, we do have a table of contents. That's your P1, very simple to, pink 1 is your first one, I'll say P1, but pink 1 is your table of contents. So you can see where that is, some reordering, so that's ease of looking through the language. We'll go to green 1 is going to be where we'll have our mission, vision, and strategic plan information. So that's a placeholder. Okay. So you can see those first couple things, some reordered. Our next part is going to be moving of a section. That's our P2, and that is moving that section with the information to section 10. It's just a reordering, so you'll find that later in there, feeling that that was a more appropriate place to do it. One of the first things that we want to point out is there's a school district civility clause within our school district policy. It was a request from our principals to include a link to the civility clause, not the entire policy, but it's just important, and when we're working with families, that we have that mutual respect in our discussions to let them know about that. So we did not put the entire civility clause in there, but just wanted to add that language. So that's G2, and including that in the Student Code of Conduct. Our next portion, our green 3, this is actually something that has been in for many years into our Code of Conduct in the reorder. We think that it got lost in the transition, so we made sure that it's included this year again. We did add language from the commissioner. When we do have students who, of course, have their First Amendment rights at school, we also want to maintain the integrity of the instructional day. So that gives the language of how we would work with our administrative staff on those types of situations to make sure that we're not disrupting the learning environment.
Okay. So this is basically saying that they have the right for their freedom of speech. However, it cannot be done during the school or a school activity. And does it say in here that it cannot be on school property anywhere?
No.
So I believe the rule states, and case president, I believe backs this up, that they are allowed to do so on campus, but it must not disrupt instructional time, and it must be done in collaboration with the principal. There's several other factors involved there. If a student is to walk out of a class, disrupt instructional time, walk off a school campus without permission, all of those are handled in our discipline matrix as things that are not allowed on a school campus, whether it's to protest or for any other reason. Those activities are not allowed. I don't know, Mr. Penley, Mr. Dive, I probably did not legally put that in correct terms, but hopefully it matches what the letter of the law states.
I can give an example of where it had occurred in the past, a little history. Back in 2019, after Stoneman Douglas, many of the schools wanted to show their support of the school with a moment of silence. And at the schools, we worked with our students to allow the opportunity for them to walk out together in solidarity for that, for like a reflection of that. So that's an example of students wanting to express their First Amendment rights. We supported that, and I believe in all the high schools we engaged in that together. We had a set time, a set moment, you may recall as well, and then we returned to class. Now, however, if somebody does that without expressly working with the administrative staff, that's where we would deal with that individually in that policy. So that's where that First Amendment right is, make sure it doesn't disrupt that instructional day without working with the administrative staff.
Yeah, Madam Chair, Mayor.
Sure.
And I think that's the standard, correct? As long as it's not disruptive,
Correct.
then silent protest is allowed. Like in the Supreme Court case, they were, if I remember, they were just wearing armbands.
Tinker in Des Moines, yes.
Yeah.
So it wasn't anything that disrupted the school day. That's the letter of that. But there's always the one-offs of those that people interpret differently from what that Supreme Court case actually states.
But that bottom line is you can't disrupt instruction or school operation.
Correct.
Okay, just cool. Thank you.
Okay, just like in, I don't know if somebody else had their hand up, but I'm reading this as we're going. Does not cause a disruption of the school or school activity or even safety, I would even say. I don't know if it's in here. I'm just
Yes, if you look at, I believe it's the third sentence down, it says administrators must take proactive steps to make sure students remain under appropriate supervision during school hours and instructional environment remain safe and focused on learning. That's
Okay.
where that safety area is involved as well.
And that part was added, the green language is added to match with the green sticking out?
Yes.
Okay.
That's directly from our commissioner and the language
right.
with the statute.
Perfect, perfect.
If I could clarify, the red was what was previously in our code of conduct. We added that back in, and then we reviewed it with the rule, the administrative law rule, and then added in the language, and that's the green.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Anyone else? You good?
Moving along to pink 3 goes into just a reordered section about where we have moments of silence, which is one of those statutory parts. Blue 1 is, we removed the information there about grading as that's appropriately addressed in the student progression plan. So where we saw that repetition, we've sent that to Mr. Jensen's document he shared with you. Looking at
Ms.
pink-
Melton, excuse me.
Oh, sorry.
With regards to the moment of silence, if I recall, we had to stand. Is standing no longer required? Because we had to stand.
We take this directly from what was put out by statutory language, and there's not a requirement, I believe, to stand. The Pledge of Allegiance is where you may get into that standing portion, and that's within there. But the moment of silence, I don't believe it dictates standing. It just says you must have the minute of moment of silence.
Okay, because we were required to stand for the moment of silence. So just wanted to check on that.
Yep. Moving to blue 1, I just stated about that with the grades. Pink 4, this is the restructuring of the, I'm flipping the page there, that's the restructuring of section 3 of just looking at where that would go with the artificial intelligence. That is moved under our technology section, so that moved there. And then we're going to look at orange 1. This is where we put in the statutory language on dress code and where that states specifically with dress code. And then if you look on the next page, we did have, this is just our draft of a person and what the dress code is. And it's just, we will be obviously making a little better. That was my attempt at AI with that one. It came out all right, but that gives you a visual of our dress code policies.
Currently, right?
Currently,
Yeah,
yes, sir,
yeah.
currently.
Okay.
We didn't have any feedback from the community of any specific community or students of any change to it for what we have currently.
Okay, so what I'm looking at in this diagram then is in upper body coverage, tops must have sleeves covering the shoulder and completely hide the midriff, back, and all undergarments. It doesn't mean a student has to wear a t-shirt down to their knees, right?
No, I don't believe it says anything about a top going to their knees. No, ma'am.
So this
Or-
picture, those 4 parts, that's the AI that took from our policy, but the actual dress code language changes are here. So this is what will actually be in the student code of conduct that were slightly changed or reordered for more clear language.
So, Mrs. Spray, if you look on page 14, letter G, where it addresses form-fitting leotard spandex clothing are allowed with proper garments that cover mid-thigh length or longer. I think that's where the question comes in with shirts covering to mid-thigh, if they're wearing them with spandex or leggings.
Okay, yeah, okay. Okay, I gotcha.
Madam Chair, if I may,
Go ahead.
This is kind of dumb, but in the diagram, if we leave that in, that would imply that male and female students must have a shirt that comes like straight up to their, comes all the way up to their collarbone, which
Scoop neck.
I don't think is going to be.
And again, the picture's
I don't
just
even mean to
taking,
scoop, but
the
just-
picture's just taking the generalities. In the descriptors on
course.
page 14, it doesn't say what kind of neckline. It just says you should have a top with sleeves that covers the midriff. I think most shirts are like that.
They just have like that little V. That's all.
Correct.
That's all.
There's nothing in there that says specifically whether you can wear a V-neck or a round neck. No, sir.
Gotcha. Okay. I
It's
just don't want
hard
that
with it's
confusion.
hard with a very generic body form to show all the varieties that we can have.
Although I do appreciate that we have a gender neutral.
Absolutely. It's
dress
a
code.
gender neutral dress code, so it's a gender neutral
That's great.
person.
And
Way
two,
ahead of time.
it's very hard to give a diagram when there's so many body types.
Correct.
A medium would fit me way different than it would
Me.
somebody, right, somebody my size with a little heavier weight. So it's just one of those deals that you gotta kind of do. So,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Felton.
Okay, so this has been an irritant of mine for many, many, many years. I don't understand why students have to have sleeves, because I feel like it's a double standard. So, visual aids today, I have a shirt. It is sleeveless. I know. Go ahead, pass out. I'm showing shoulders. All right. And according to the does not expose underwear, is not indecent or vulgar in any manner, and I don't know how this can disrupt educational abilities. This is a 3-inch seam. I measured it this morning. Undergarments are all covered. Not exposing anything that's inappropriate. And I could wear this to work as a high school teacher, but my students could not. And I mean, everything is covered, right? I mean, there's nothing inappropriate about this shirt. Why they cannot have their shoulders out when we live in Florida and we have air conditioning and heating issues in our classrooms, because I've gone through it, where we either everybody's bundled up together trying to stay warm, or we're so hot that everybody's like hanging out like this. I feel like it's a double standard from adults to students, male and female. I don't see why a shoulder is considered inappropriate. If we are in a society where shoulders are inappropriate, we might as well all start wearing burqas, because this is not fair to say that a shoulder is inappropriate. If somebody has a problem with my shoulders and they feel it is inappropriate in a sexual way, they need to grow up, because my shoulders are not inappropriate. nobody's shoulders are inappropriate. So I don't understand this. We've got horrible weather, and it's, you know how it is. And telling students that they cannot be comfortable in Florida. If we were in, Idaho, I could, I wouldn't care about whether or not they were wearing sleeveless shirts or not. It wouldn't be a big deal. But in Florida, it is so hot. And if they're not wearing a hoodie in 90-degree weather, which they often do, I don't get that one, but, they want to take that off and they want to be comfortable. And this has bothered me for years and years and years. And I understand with male tank tops, they can have ones that loop down. Well, that's not appropriate. It needs to be under your arms, right? No nipple area on the boys showing either. And so for me, this has always been just a ridiculous thing. Because if I can do it, I don't know why they can't. So why is that? Why no shoulders?
So, may I respond just briefly?
Yes.
I just want to remind that the committee takes what was previously board approved and then asks for revisions and feedback and includes student voice and all of that when you shape the whole committee. And then we bring it to the board to review. And if the previous boards in the past, I'm assuming, I'd have to go back and look, perhaps wanted that in the dress code, it would be up to this board if there wanted to be a change. I don't think anyone on the committee was opposed to a change. It just didn't come up in talking with those who have worked on the committee in conversation. They didn't bring this rule here. This rule was existing.
Yeah.
And so if the board, and that's the purpose of this conversation, would like a change, then that's, hearing from the board members is exactly why we're here.
And I would really like to make this change. I don't know how the rest of the board feels about it, but I would really like to make this change. You've heard all my reasons. So that's my discussion here.
So Heather, you just want to strike that one, all shirts, tops, and dresses shall have sleeves and cover the shoulders. You just want to strike that sentence. That's pretty simple.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, again, if you want to even give them a guideline, shoulder strap, because I've been in schools where they had a guideline of, it must be 2 inches or 3 inches or whatever, and no bra showing, full underarm, descriptions. But, that's my thoughts.
Mr. Cho.
So, I don't know when this was, I don't know when this sleeve thing was put in. I don't remember it being since I was here on the board. So you probably did it.
Honestly, I think it's been here.
But
I think it's been there
but
forever.
I do remember teaching, especially. So I'm 22 years old, just graduated, and I taught juniors, and there was the 3-finger strap rule. Had to be 3 fingers.
Yeah.
I think the problem is, whatever line we set, there's always going to be students that are trying to push that border. And so my concern is, does it cause that much, and I don't know this answer, right? But will it cause that much more issues from a disciplinary, not from an education, because your shoulder's out, now I can't function in the meeting. No. But I'm saying because then as a teacher, am I like, oh, well, is that 2 inches or is that 3 inches? And, that is my assumption is why they went to something very basic like this. I would be okay to be like, I think from a tank top standpoint, as a male teacher, I think that causes problems. I'm not going to be the guy that reports that 17-year-old girl to go anywhere for tank top, 0 chance. So I think it puts people in, and then they go to the next class, and then they get busted, and they're like, well, Coach Choate didn't tell my daughter. Well, yeah, because I'm not measuring your daughter's tank top. Sorry. So I just think it causes, and my assumption is that's probably why we did that. Is my assumption. Now it wasn't on the board. I don't believe has been the last 3 or 4 years. I think this one has always been here like this. I don't remember seeing language, because then we're gonna have to define guidelines if we get away from shirtless. or
Shirtless?
sleeveless, not shirtless. Strike that. Reverse. Sleeveless. We're gonna have to have guidelines, and then is it 2 inches? Is it 3 inch width? You know what I mean? Like, so my assumption is that's probably why they put it in there. So I don't have a problem with it the way it is. I think if we did something like, if you wanted to take sleeves out of the equation, I just think you'd have to say no tank tops at all. Like,
Yeah.
like for instance, I think there's female shirts that like have
careful,
like small
careful.
have like small sleeves on them.
Cap sleeves.
Thank you.
We'll help you with the women's clothing
So
description.
that could be theoretically looked at and construed as like, oh, that's sleeveless. But there is like a little sleeve on it, just doesn't go like halfway
Right.
down your arm. Like, I would be okay with something like that. I just think when we start getting like to tank tops and different, I would rather it just be as simple as possible for our teachers and our staff to be like, you can't have that, rather than get out the ruler and measure 3 inches. And I think that's probably why they did it. So I'm okay with leaving it. I'd be okay with doing a cap sleeve. I don't think I'd be okay with tank tops.
Well, I don't want tank tops. But there's a difference between something without sleeves versus a tank top.
Right.
Agreed. If we could somehow define that,
Charlie, you're making faces.
Mr. Kennedy.
You both are, I think, at the solution, which is, I agree with you, Heather, that the sleeve thing is not fair. My fear would be that if you take it out, a whole bunch of young ladies, and I don't mean to signal out the women, the young ladies, because they're always the subject of, or it seems like they are predominantly the ones that get into trouble under the dress code, which is not fair to young women. But you're going to have a lot of young women show up in spaghetti straps. And so, to Chad's point,
I think there's going to be
No.
boys who are
going
into
to show up
themselves that are
they're-
lifting weights that are going to show up in
wife beaters. Yes,
no
they are.
question,
I mean,
no question.
and so I think the compromise here is, I agree we can take out the shoulder thing. I apologize, that colloquially known as wife beaters, like some sort of 2-inch or 3-inch rule on because that would eliminate the boys wearing, the white undershirt tank top style, and it would also eliminate spaghetti straps.
Yeah, if you say
But I
no,
mean, I
no tank
generally
tops, no
support you on it.
spaghetti,
But
no
there's
tank
gotta be
tops, no
something.
spaghetti straps.
I mean, I think if we start saying, well, but you can't wear spaghetti straps, I think we just have to have something simple that a teacher can look at. No, you
Right.
don't need a ruler.
Right.
But like, we all know the difference between a spaghetti strap and a 2 to 3 inch, whatever.
Sleeveless shirt.
Yeah. So anyway, I totally support you on it, but I do think we need to have some guideline so that it, is clear for students and for the faculty that have to enforce it.
I mean, when it gets really hot, everybody shoves their sleeves all the way up here anyway.
Mr. Tatum?
I would just leave it, Ms. Felton. I understand your concern, but as I heard everybody's conversation, I think you have better judgment as an adult, as a teacher, and what this is all going to look like and should look like up here, as opposed to students coming in and they're just not going to have the same judgment that you would have. And then we will get into measuring and how far do the sleeves go down and stuff like that. And this is a very easy rule, right? Cover the shoulders. And it's very simple to enforce. So I hear what you're saying. I think it's just a question of judgment between adults and especially those of you who have been teachers who have seen students pushing the envelope, so to speak. So I think this is a very easy rule to enforce. It's clear, and I would just leave it as is.
Okay, I got a couple of things. Like at athletics, do the cheerleaders and the dance teams, do their garments have to be sleeved? I've seen cheerleaders with long sleeves on. They're like
Basketball, then
they're like laced, and I mean they're see-through. They're very thin, but is that a requirement?
No, their uniforms don't have to follow this requirement, so to speak. In basketball, prime example.
Right.
Volleyball, another example. There are several sports where if they're in the uniform as required to participate in that sport, that uniform's approved by the school. It doesn't meet the same requirements. We have swimming, track, they all require different levels of movement.
Okay. I'm kind of split on this. If this policy was, and I kind of agree with you, Ms. Felton, I have very, what you call, I guess, classic sleeveless shirts that cover 90% of my shoulder. I think that if the language was changed, it would have to say absolutely no spaghetti straps, absolutely no tank tops are allowed. However, a sleeveless shirt or a cap sleeve could be, and I don't think that teachers would have to go out and start measuring. It's a simple rule. Use your 4 fingers. If it covers your shoulders, that's allowed. Pretty easy, pretty simple. I don't think it needs to be three.
Like the
Your
student's
own.
4 fingers?
The student 4 fingers.
Gotcha.
If the student, if their 4 fingers covers their shoulder, I think that would be a good measure. I just, when you see the emails come across with a student that's wearing a t-shirt that goes down to practically their knee, and one teacher doesn't code them, but the next teacher does, I'm like, same outfit, but this teacher's doing this. So I think that we have, I don't know where this rule came from, where you couldn't wear a sleeveless shirt. I imagine because students did push the envelope, and somebody here had to make the decision, okay, t-shirts for everybody, period, stop. And, kids like fashion. Male and female, they like fashion. So just go to an after-school event. What that rule is thrown out, and you can see tops and bottoms. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
Everywhere. So I would ask that you would reach out to the committee and say how you could change that language to say cap sleeves or 4-finger sleeveless shirts are acceptable, either male or female, and that and get their opinion on that. Get feedback from principals maybe, because I do think it's we're putting so much limits on these students already and pressure, and I think having them interact, and to me, fashion is part of interacting at schools. It really is. They talk about their shirt or their pants or their earrings or their necklace and all that kind of stuff. Guys talk about tennis shoes, the different shoes that they wear. It's a shoe thing for guys. It really is. So,
J's.
and I don't know what that even is. So.
Jordans.
Oh, Jordans?
Yeah.
Okay, see, I'm not in that arena, but that's where I would put that. So I have Mr. Kennedy, then Mr. Choate.
Yeah, thanks. I'll be quick. Chair Sprague, I totally agree with you, and I think that's the answer. Allow sleeveless, but just have that some sort of rule. And if we use this cap thing for the dads, can you define what a cap sleeve is? Because I've never heard that term before until today. So if I were
I
or
so
me,
I can I would dialogue with you if you don't
of
mind.
course, go ahead. I'm done. Yeah.
So I can tell you what a cap sleeve is. A cap sleeve is probably just a little moon-shaped
Yeah, like
piece that's attached to the top of the sleeve that covers from here to here, and it comes down about here.
yeah,
It's just called a little cap.
Okay.
sometimes like frilly or something.
I like the finger rule better.
Yeah, I like the 4-finger rule. That is simple.
It's simple for everybody involved, student,
Yes,
faculty.
everybody. So
Clear rule.
it's just one of those things, so.
So Mrs. Lyon and Mrs. Scarborough will go back, work
think
on
Mr.
that
Choate had
particular
another
piece,
comment
and
Yeah,
we'll have the board
it's
look at
okay.
it for
No, she's right.
consideration.
I was going to say that I agree with just seeing what the committee thinks and what some of the principals think and things like that. But I also think board, like, is this high school? Is this middle school? Like, is this across the board? I think all those things need to be discussed. I think middle school is different than high school. I don't know if living in, I just don't, even if it's asking the kid to put their fingers on, I would rather have it not be where your teacher is going to have to be a judgment on a garment length, 4 fingers, whatever. I don't know. But I'm okay with, like, what you're talking about, like the cap sleeve, like shoulders got to be covered, like your arm doesn't have to be covered. It could be something simple like that, like shoulder covered, but your sleeve doesn't have to go down your arm or something. I don't know. Funny. Anyway, that's all. That's all I got.
No problem.
As it is, teachers already have to judge about whether or not a shirt is mid-thigh on a student. Now, if you put Cindy and I standing next to each other, the same shirt is not going to go mid-thigh on me, and it could be down to her knees.
They all are.
Yeah. So that is also an issue too. We're already out there judging whether or not shirts are mid-thigh, whether or not something might be considered inappropriate. It may not be inappropriate to somebody, but it's cues as inappropriate to somebody else. And it is all very subjective. All of it is. And my 4-finger width is going to be thicker than her 4-finger width because I have much bigger hands, but I also have broader shoulders. So 4 fingers covering my shoulders may cover her entire upper shoulder. So I feel like if it's the student's own shoulder, then that's appropriate. And it's so hard in this day and age with styles and fashions that are out there to find things that
That's very true.
that suit dress code. I mean, there was the phase of the ripped jeans that went all the way up to your hips, and and kids are running around trying to find jeans that cover, or ended up wearing
Leggings are
spandex pants underneath to make sure that no skin showed, because the only jeans they could find had rips all over them. It was impossible for a while there to find jeans that didn't have rips. So it is, a lot of it is subjective, but we have to also work with the fashion that's out there and what's available for them to buy.
I just don't want to I want to make it as easy as possible on our staff to function throughout the day. We already have to deal with so much stuff that I do believe that we're pretty, this dress code is pretty simple. Yes, if you're wearing leggings, your shirt's got to be below to your mid waist or mid thigh or whatever. If you got rid of I'm not saying this, so don't give me emails, moms and everybody. But if you got rid of leggings and wearing spandex, then that wouldn't matter, right? Like, that's out the window. So if you want to make it even really easier, but I'm okay with whatever the principals, and get the feedback, see what you guys want to do.
Where I'm at on this is if a teacher's allowed to wear sleeveless, but a student isn't, that is a double standard in my opinion. I don't think I've ever been on campus with a sleeveless shirt, because I'm always cold, so I'm usually in long sleeves on top, underneath too. So, but anyway, I'd like to get some feedback from them. And did you have one additional thing?
Just one more thing too, with the uniforms you're talking about, the cheerleading and things like that. They wear those on campus, and they do have, most of them do go sleeveless, so they have to wear something underneath.
They have to wear something.
And so, if their uniforms are appropriate and they can take the something underneath off for the actual sporting event, then they should be able to not have the something underneath during the day as well.
They typically go over instead of under.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's also part of my thought process. And I'm done now.
All right. Mr. Tatum?
I just can't resist throwing in this comment, and that is, if we had uniforms, all this would go away. Right? And I've seen it at Willis, I think, and I was driving here this morning, and I think Manatee Elementary, everybody was in red shirts and pants, and I suppose it comes from my military background, but we had balls and events, and you could do all the fashion you wanted when you went to those things. But when you're at work, the focus was supposed to be on what you were there to do. And when people, I'm not sure that I agree with the point you made, Ms. Spray, that, school is a time to kind of show off your fashion and stuff. That would be very distracting, I think. And that's probably why we have uniforms in the military, is that we want to focus on what's going on there, and you can have your fashion expression outside of the workplace. But just want to make that point as we're thinking. And I know I read somewhere else in our policy where it does say that the schools can make that decision, right? And maybe if principals are listening to this, if you're having problems with the dress code, then go down that road and see if the people in your school would be amenable to, having a uniform, and that might help resolve some of the dress code problems that we have. Because I do remember a year and a half ago, I think, getting emails about, well, what is mid-thigh and how are we measuring that and who's actually going to do that? And, and I'm just saying uniforms make all this go away, but I'll just put that out there and then I'll be quiet. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay. Just as we're, a couple of the points on the dress code, I don't want to belabor a little bit. I do want to point out, we did add in statutory language about gang type items in there with that. Also, any jewelry or accessories that could be a safety risk, as we have students who may have something large or sharp or something that, we need to be monitoring that. And also something to include that sometimes is an issue when students, when it's cold, they bring a blanket, and that can create something that they probably shouldn't have. We always have warm spaces before school that students can be in. That way they're not necessarily bringing a blanket to take a nap. And if they're cold, we can find other things to items. That was something that the principals had asked to include, is to not have the blanket. So sometimes I saw it as.
Was that not on there before?
It was not.
So this is gonna be new this year.
Correct. We're making
Okay.
sure that it's
And what
in there.
about
Yeah.
pajama bottoms and slippers?
Sleepwear is in there. Sleepwear.
I think
is in there.
sleepwear is in there.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's
That's still there.
I.
That remains in there.
All right.
Okay. So I just want to point out a couple of those things that were changed or updated in there. Moving to our next point, looks into, let's see, I had to get back to where we are. Artificial intelligence, we went into
Blue
the dress
two.
code, which quite a bit. So we're to blue 2 with the removal of the semester exam. Again, that was something that is also with our SPP.
Okay.
Our next part about the child study teams and that information, that is more appropriate into our other parts of our state language was added in there for that, just to be sure we have it notated. Okay? Our next big thing, I think, is going to get into, we had some movement with our Pink 5 is going to be moving that length of the Hope Scholarship information to a different section, and that is still there. It's just in a different section near our choice options. Looking at the positive school climate, this is where we made a new section or titled it because it has so many things that are specific to our school climates. We put in there some of the electronic equipment information, so you can see some of that documentation there of loss and theft, et cetera, is not going to be the responsibility of the school district. So that's something that we made sure to have in there with electronic equipment. If they bring it, it is at that risk.
I've got Ms. Felton raising her hand, if you don't mind.
With regard to electronic equipment, I can text from my watch, so does that count? Do they have to, if they have a smartwatch? I mean, small children won't, but, middle school they might. So I was wondering if a smartwatch would count.
That's something that classrooms monitor for if they're using it appropriately or not, yes.
Okay.
In addition, we have things coming out like meta glasses.
Yes.
So we did address that in the code here.
Okay.
There was a couple little language updates. I think it's on page 23 in the blue there. That includes all wireless communication devices. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, Madam Chair, if I may.
Yeah.
Lisa, the blue sentence there, may not use cell phones or wireless, that applies to meta classes then?
Yes.
That's where that's covered? Okay.
That would be wireless.
I gotcha. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sure there'll be something else in the future, so we hope
Yeah,
the
good.
wireless communication devices kind of covered it globally and
Perfect,
and
yeah.
everything,
6 months will be something new.
Yeah.
probably.
Not limited to.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You can look into that next page that gives a little more information about your electronic devices and technology and internet safety listed there as well.
Awesome.
When you go to green tab 6, this is where we included specifically our contacts for Title IX situations that may occur. So that's on your green 6. Before it was more generic information, we wanted to make sure that the
Yeah.
actual contact information is there for families. On our next blue 3, we removed information about firearms on campus that is statute, so it's somewhat repetitious to also list it there. Our green 7 gets into the reporting system and links that are established for reporting information anonymously. So it gives actual link for any reports that need to be done there. Orange 3 adds the statute language for that with making threats.
Okay.
The wording is all the same. We just wanted to include the statutory language. All right, moving on to pink 8, this gets into reordering with our reporting of information and put in a different section with disciplinary action. That will go to a different section. Pink 9, we looked into the citizenship information and referred some of this information to the athletic contract, which we have with our athletic handbook. There was, again, something that was there that we moved in an appropriate spot. Oh, and
Go
also
ahead.
on the top of,
Ms. Scarborough.
You can finish. You can finish.
yeah, on the top of page 37 is about the drug, alcohol, tobacco use information. Just,
And if I can expand on that a little bit, what we had in our last code of conduct was a discrepancy with out-of-school suspension and athletic events. So our principals wanted to align that. So if a student is out of school suspended, while they're suspended, they're not eligible to participate in those sports. And I think most of our schools were doing that, but this just aligns those two.
Go ahead.
Sorry to answer, just a comment real quick on that. You're talking about just the drug and alcohol and tobacco use related.
well, also if you're out of school suspended, you cannot, yeah, when.
I mean, the changes were just to that top one. The middle one
Correct.
was already there.
Correct.
Out of school suspension. Yeah. Okay. So 2 things on this board that just added discussion. And I'm okay if we don't do this, but this is just from an athletic background. The out of school suspension, completely agree. Out of school suspension, you should not be playing in games. But I think it's more of a punishment to have to go to practice and not participate in the game than to just sit at home for the 10 days. Legitimately. So I'm not saying that's for everybody. But I do think we should allow, I mean, obviously we allow our principals to have some autonomy on their campus. And this would have to be watched extremely closely. But I feel like we should give the principal, the athletic director, and the coach of that sport the ability to say, Chad, you've got a 10-day suspension. Obviously, you're not playing in these games, whatever, in the 10-day. But you're not going to be home in the AC chilling. You're going to be out at practice doing what you're supposed to be doing, probably doing a little bit extracurricular running, etc. And then you're still not playing in the game. Not every campus would potentially want that. It's just the thought as I was reading that. And so I just wanted to see what you guys thought about adding that language to allow the principal, the athletic director, and definitely not playing in games. Like 100% agree with that. But allowing, I know that's still going to be doing extracurricular activities. But like I said, I think it's more of a punishment to be involved and not play than it is to just be out.
I agree with you. And also, if you look at JROTC, would be another one where I think that would be acceptable. I mean, you're out there, you're training, you're in the hot and the sweating and all the stuff. And I am sure whoever is running your ROTC is going to make sure that you are very well aware of you screwed up and you're now in trouble. Because I can't see any of our military men saying that, yeah, go ahead, this is fine, and we'll and make sure that they work hard. Plus, if you also look at if it's when you're doing physical training for something and you take 10 days off, you lose some of what you've gained. And as we're not completely kicking them out of school and want them to learn from this experience, but then come back and do better, I can see where we would want them to maintain their physical abilities, to stay on par with what they have been. But so, having the school have the option, depending on the offense, as to, whether they want the kid to continue with their athletic training, I can see that as being an option.
And just real quickly, just to just reiterate a little bit more on that, and this is for all students. When a student's suspended, those 10 days, whatever, the likelihood, I guess this is I'm completely kind of making this up, but the reality is that out of that semester, like their grades, unless they are very driven to say, I got to keep my grades up during this 10, as teachers, how many suspended kids really were like, hey, can I get my work for my 10 days I'm suspended? No. But if extracurricular wise, if you were involved in a sport, you potentially can have that involved. Inside of that contract language, that the school does individually. I think you're obviously gonna have touch with that student to be able to make sure that grades are going to be continued to be used and at least have contact. Yeah.
Okay. You got done faster than I thought. There's a couple of things. One that was brought to my attention just this past weekend. When a student has a suspension, we're talking about athletics and being able to participate in clubs, but also go on field trips if there are students that are DF students, but we're at the end of the year, and someone allows them to go on a trip that they didn't earn. I think that's something we need to start dialing in on that policy and make it a little tighter. And I kind of agree with what you're saying, because if you're out so many days and you're on a football team and you come back, you're going to end up with an injury. We don't want that. So being able to at least participate in a practice session, I don't see any problem with that. But I also want to make sure that there are academics. They're out of school, I understand, but not that I was ever suspended from school, but my sister was quite a bit, and I brought her homework home, so she would keep up academically. Is that something that we do? I'm just throwing that out there because I'm not real sure how we handle the academic side of a student that may have done something bad, but we don't want them to fail academically. So how is that handled, Dr. Breslin, Ms. Scarborough, anyone else?
I would want to speak first to the athletic eligibility. It is statute that if you are suspended out of school, you cannot be on any campus during that suspension. It's statute 1006.07. So it's a statutory requirement if they're suspended out of school. In terms of field trips and those kind of things, there is within our field trip handbook requirements academically where teachers would sign off on those things for a field trip, especially many times those end of the year celebrations, there are academic requirements that most schools do adhere to for those end of the year activities. But if a student is suspended out of school, they are provided the amount of time they were suspended to make up that work and to work through that. And I would say that very few of our students who are actively involved in our activities and sports do attain a long suspension because of, I think, those activities they're involved in. They don't want to miss out on those things and get themselves in trouble. A lot of times it's preventative, what could occur.
Okay. Ms. Fallon?
With regard to the end of year activities, having paid for, grad bash and things for myself, for my kiddos to go, is there any, extenuating circumstance, you've paid out however 100 and whatever it is dollars for your kids to go to, Universal or wherever they're going. Is there anything in the handbook about, you've been suspended, so you can't go and you forfeit that money?
I believe in most of the paperwork, when they have the permission forms to go to those end of the year activities, they do have points in there of you could have your loss of privileges, and depending on the situation, it may be a non-refundable type of a thing. So they do include those in many of those. I could look through all of them individually, but they all mirror each other in terms of those
Okay,
portions of that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. I can wait.
Either
I was
one
just
of
gonna say, apologize for even bringing it up if it's in the, I didn't find it in the statute. All I see in the statute, and I could be, I mean, obviously haven't read every single word in here, but that's the reason why I even brought it up. Because in the beginning, it just talks about the school board has to create policies. But if it's in there, then yeah, I retract everything I said. Because obviously we can't go
So
with
you
the statute.
found it, huh?
I know I still have not found it, but I know I'm looking at 106 or 1006.07 as the district board, the school district board duties relating to student discipline and school safety, and that we have to create guidelines for that. And so if it's in here, deep in here, I didn't see it. I apologize.
Mr. Choate, maybe while we're continuing to
It's
discuss,
all
we
good.
can
Yeah, yeah.
have, Mr. Penley,
Yeah,
Mr. Dye
make
can
this
do a quick
decision
little
now.
check for us and then come back to us on that, just so we,
I did look in the FHSA policies. There's nothing on
okay.
that in FHSA. So
And I'm
anyways,
looking it up right now as well, but we do have two
That's-
attorneys in the room.
We certainly do.
that's all
So
I've got on this section. I do have another on the next one, but go ahead, Ms. Kearney.
Yeah, I just want to change gears a little bit about on page 37, the drug, alcohol, and tobacco use section. The change you have here makes a lot of sense. Then I flip over to the matrix, and I'm looking at I'm on page 88 and 89. The only reference to drugs that I see and I'm looking at this is the high school specifically. The code is DRU, cess or drug possession or use. Lisa, is that the only?
No, sir, we also have distribution. I
Oh,
don't-
gotcha.
Yeah, that's
So there's
DRG,
drug
yeah, drug-
distribution, and I believe, is there an
There's an
alcohol?
alcohol one as well.
Yeah, no, I
Right.
saw, I just
There's
have what I'm
also a
getting at.
tobacco.
Okay, I'm getting at vape pens is what brings me to this. Yeah, I shouldn't say that was the only one because I did see the distribution line successor.
Maintenance on campus?
Apparently so, according to my nephew. So the assessor, is that 5 to 10 day out of school suspension? Is that required by statute or rule?
They're required to be suspended or have some type of assessor outcome. It's our matrices that says the amount of time.
Gotcha. Okay, but they have to serve, would an in-school suspension count?
It could.
It does. Because what I'm after is, and my entire education career, I never liked out-of-school suspension because I thought you're just sent, like Chad said, you're just sending the kid home and they get to hang out. So I just want to put this out there for the board and for the superintendent and all you guys and the team to consider and the committee is, because what I'm after is really going after vape pens because that really seems to be our number one problem to me. You guys are the ones in the schools and supervising schools. Maybe you know better. But I'd like to move toward an in-school suspension. I mean, obviously, like to me, a vape pen and cocaine are two totally different things to show up to school with. But if it all has to be in one line under possession, could we change that to an in-school suspension? I'm just kind of spitballing here. So think about the length.
Can I
To me,
answer
like,
a little clarification on vapes. So
Sure.
some vapes have tobacco, but many of them have marijuana in them, and that's
Sorry,
where
that's-
you get into. So when we do have the vape that is the tobacco based, there is an education portion in that is a requirement. We also in schools suspend them when they get into that realm of where it is a drug.
yeah.
We do also have the SAFE program where the education piece is within whatever the consequence is. So it's not just, here's your drug offense, you're not here anymore days. We do have the SAFE program, which is that drug cessation training that they must also be in part of in addition to any consequence that is given now.
And that does reduce their out-of-school suspension time if they agree to participate in that SAFE program. So we have education every step of the way for all of those offenses. I've even heard there's some new bath salt type things coming back into a vape pen, which So there's all kinds of stuff that's out there and that keeps coming up. And so we address that through all of these codes that are assessor level codes. So they do all require assessor level action. But they are treated differently depending on what's in them. Tobacco,
No, that makes sense.
assault,
Yeah.
felony, CBD would be a felony to have on campus. So we do have to treat them differently because the law treats them differently.
Interesting. So,
And then also there's distribution, which we didn't talk about either. And of course, we cannot have our students distributing drugs on our campus. So that consequence
Yeah.
is going to be much different than just a vape with the.
yeah, no, and
tobacco.
I get that. I totally understand that. I have no problem with if you're distributing on campus, whatever's the most draconian we can be, we should be. But in the case of a THC vape pen, not tobacco, and again, I'm just putting this out here for thought. Like, I just want to give this consequence some teeth, so that maybe for some kids who are kind of like, oh, I see other kids bringing vape pens, I'm going to bring one too. Again, a THC vape pen. I'm going to bring one too. Or if we have something that's longer but in school, that might, and I don't know, but I'm just in my head, maybe we can reduce some of the vape usage with longer suspensions but in school, so they don't get a quote unquote vacation. And to your point, they are getting education and they get part of their suspension knocked off for going through that program.
I think that's why in our matrix, there are some different things within that at the school-based level, I know that the majority of principals will look at, this is the thing that's going to get this kid the appropriate consequence, but also back on track. I don't think anybody's going, I just want to throw them out of the school because if a student enjoys going to lunch detention, I might do something different than lunch detention. I might have them do something, if they enjoy being out of school, I think you're going to be in school every day. So I think that you do look on a case by case. While we have those recommended things, there is, for the consistency, that's important. But as you have some of those things, you look to see how you can best reach whatever that student is to maintain them on campus. It's always our goal.
Okay, and that discretion is very, very important.
Well, and if I could just add one more thing, this is not code of conduct related, this is student services related. We are utilizing our school psychologists and our school social workers to get involved when there is a referral for a drug use situation. They do a little mini assessment and they check in with that student and the family, non-disciplinary, the discipline happens somewhere else, just to see if there's any resources that the family needs, if there's anything going on with the student that we can help them work through. So we are trying to do the teaching part, the connecting with community resources as needed too.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
No, that's good to hear. And I don't want to throw the key away, punish these kids and throw the key away. I mean, that's important, that follow up with the family and that principal discretion.
We also have a few other tools we utilize on our campuses, like a safety plan. So that could include a designated bathroom, could be any type of thing that's specific to that student and their needs to help them be more accountable for what they're bringing on campus and how they're acting on campus. It's not like a one and done, you're out of here, you're never coming back again. It's not like that. We do have to address the discipline, but we have to balance that with supporting the student. So how can we keep our campus safe and support the student and what they need?
Okay, thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Dye, did you find your statute?
Mr. Finley will have something on that in a second.
Okay.
I just wanted to. There are actually several statutes that are applicable. We're looking at any exceptions that might apply. I'm not seeing any right away. But under Florida statute section 810.097, it is a trespass and a misdemeanor for a student under suspension to be on the grounds of any school.
Oh, well, there's your answer. Okay.
So they can't even come to
No,
games, etc.
nope.
And I
Not
had,
while they're suspended or expelled.
Okay, all right,
Chair, I had one other comment.
Sure.
that'll be interesting.
On that section on drug, alcohol, and tobacco use. I think I heard you say, you wanted to say possess or use, which is probably better. And then drugs should probably be quantified with illegal or non-prescription.
You can pick that up, guys?
Because
Legal recommendation changes on language?
students may be on prescribed medication.
Got it? Thank you for that, Mr. Choate.
Just last thing on that page 37, under the next one down, like criminal offenses, the students arrested or charged with criminal offenses, lose their privileged participation in schools, athletics discretion of the school principal or designee. I think there's got to be some kind of a wording in there about an appeal or a review, because you can obviously be charged or arrested and things happen during that process of a year, let's just say, of a school year. And so just to say something about like to have some kind of appeal or review process. And I'm not saying that it has to be like a daily thing, but like that the student has a chance to appeal or review X amount of days in or whatever, because obviously things change from a charge with a criminal offense or not.
Like, you mean like the charges are dropped or something?
Correct. So, which principal may say, sorry about your luck anyways, I don't know. But allow to have the student, to allow them to have the chance to be able to say, hey, look, this is not right or wrong, like this didn't happen or it did. I think it's important just to have them have the appeal.
I think that's a good recommendation, Mr. Choate, because there are some students that might be angry at another student and try to get them in trouble. And having that language, and I don't know how, I guess the legal team and code of conduct team would have to come up with some kind of language about the appeal process. I mean, if they're, and it would also be what infraction it was. You know,
Oh,
if it's
sure.
a major infraction, I mean, that's something
Sure,
that
you have a felony.
probably,
Yeah, no, of course not.
it probably, but if it's that, like Mr. Kennedy was talking about the vaping, you know, whether it's THC or tobacco products are not allowed on our campus. So there you go. Either one to me is an infraction. So, but I would agree that there should be some kind of an appeal process for the minor infractions, not only for, you know, drug and alcohol, but for other student code of conduct. I'm sure it's in the matrix in the back. I haven't got that far back through the binder, but yeah. So, yeah, I think that's a good thing. Anything else, board members? We move on? Okay.
All right, thank you. We've made note of those requests. So we'll move to the medication policy. That's your pink 10. That again was just reworded for clarity. So I think that probably also includes some of your information of over-the-counter prescribed drugs that I think was something that was brought up. So that is on that page.
Right. Makes it more cleaner. To me, it makes this cleaner, that section. Yeah.
All right.
There's a,
Did you have something?
sorry, Madam Chair. Looks like
That's
there's a
all right.
typo
Just-
on line 4 at the end.
Can you lead up so I can hear you?
It looks like on page 4, I just want to make sure this isn't in the student code, in the code of conduct itself. There's a typo, must keep their hands and feet, not feed, to themselves.
Page 4.
Oh.
Page 40, line.
No, line 4 there on transportation.
Oh, for transportation.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to go to pink 11. We're going to be getting into our student discipline section.
Okay.
So you can flip to that. Gets into, all through there, gives you some previous language and just updating some of the language.
Pink 11.
I don't have 11. What page is it?
I'm thinking
44,
There you go.
44.
44, pink 11.
section 6.
Yeah, my 11 is missing.
Ah, your sticky note.
Our volunteers we'll take a note of that.
Oh,
Volunteers
okay,
for
I see what it
notating
is. I have two 10s.
That is going to go on
I
their
have two
review.
10s. I'm good.
That'll go on their review, no problem.
Tough crowd.
All right, pink 11 just has some wording updates on page 44. Our next section going into page 46 on search and seizures. That was again just some removing of some language. And then going on to page 47, there's just some clearing up of some language there. Moving to orange 4, if you go into, that's the gang activity. Again, that is making sure that we are noting state statute in that information there.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Awesome.
Okay. Going into page 52 with transportation, we get into a lot of information there on transportation, quite a bit of overhaul and changing of some of the wording there. And I'll let Ms. Lyon speak to anything specific on that, but that was certainly some clarity within the transportation areas for that.
And before I go through this, I want to say that we started with a transportation work group that included our transportation department. And then we worked with them several times to redo the matrices so that we could better align it to the matrices for the whole district, for all things, not just for transportation. So it started with the work group, and then it went to the administrative group, and then it went from the administrative group to the community group. So what you're looking at has been reviewed multiple times by our administrators and by our transportation department to make sure that everybody is on the same page with it. So there were some pretty substantial changes, and on this PowerPoint here, you'll see in the blue, that was the wording that was updated. One of the big things is going to be wearing their backpacks on the front of their body, and that is a safety issue going on and off of the school bus. That's not something I had even thought about, so it was really great having the transportation department with us on this. I think, is the cell phone on the next one, or did it?
Can I give you an edit on the
Yes.
wording
Yes.
for number 5? Cologne, perfume, aerosol sprays may be possessed but not used.
We missed a word.
Yeah, should be not used on buses or enclosed areas.
Well, it says
Thank you for
use
that.
it says use is
But
prohibited.
use on okay. Maybe we need a comma or something because
We will work on that
I'm like-
before it goes to
it
editing.
threw me off.
And then it's number 13. That's going to be the really big change for us. Historically, we have had a no cell phones on the bus rule. We'd like to lighten that a little bit and say appropriate cell phone use on the bus, and then we spell out what appropriate is. So we don't want students to have both earbuds in their ears. We want one out, one in, so that they can respond to any emergency or directions that may be given. The code of conduct still applies. So if a student violates that by using their cell phone in a way that is not appropriate, then they are still consequenced for that. But this allows for those students who do have those lengthy bus rides to be able to listen to music if they need to.
Okay.
And then here's an example of what the matrices.
Sorry,
looks like.
Michelle.
I'm sorry. With regard to the use of phones, I didn't get a chance to read all of it. Are they, parent calls, hey, we're just passing this road, so parent knows when to go get them?
Well,
Because they're not always able to. I know that we have the tracking thing, but that doesn't always work.
it doesn't specify if they can be on calls or not on calls, and that's some language we could update if we need to. It just says use headphones to play music.
Okay.
Um,
Or just
And it says, I believe I put in there no speaker.
okay. I just want to make sure because I've had calls from parents about my kid's not allowed to
They're
use
not
their phone, and so their bus was really delayed, and I didn't know, because they're not allowed to get their phone, So I just want to make sure that they're able to communicate with their parent if there's a change.
This would allow for texting.
Okay.
Right.
Great.
That's what I was going to bring up, that they may not be able to use a phone as the phone, but they could text a parent that we're running a little behind. Maybe there was an accident.
Yeah.
you know.
And just so you all know, when we looked through this multiple times, we also looked through other districts' code of conducts to see how they treated cell phones on the bus as well, and most of them were aligned just like this. And then we had a matrices that was written out: first offense, second offense, third offense, for elementary and secondary. I believe it's on page 56 is what it used to be. And it was very locked in. So like I said, we worked really hard with transportation to create this matrices for bus events. So it's only level 1 and level 2 events. Level 3 and 4 are still referred back to the student code of conduct, and those most likely are assessor incidents that have to be reported and have to be treated a certain way. And then we have an administrator guide that we utilize to make sure that discipline is consistent across our district. So we're going to be updating that to reflect what incidents happen on the bus so that all of this correlates and it makes it clearer for administrators processing the discipline, and it makes it more helpful for bus drivers who are trying to address the discipline. Any questions on that?
Just a graphical type thing. When this is printed in like the little handout, will, like page 57, will have just the elementary, and then maybe then, I don't know how it's gonna,
I can't tell you what it's going to look like, but I know it's going to be beautiful because
Yeah.
Ms. Slaughter did a great
Well, I've seen it
job
before.
last year. Yes.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
our
because I'm like,
graphic
okay,
arts-
we have, on page 57, you have elementary, and then down at the bottom, you have a banner.
It's a
with the-
big mess right now, and it's
Okay.
because of those red lines. It goes all over the place, and
Right.
I got to tell you, me and Mr. Solly here, we've been going cross-eyed looking at this for the last couple months.
I'll bet.
So I will be glad to get rid of all of these red lines, get all the typos out, and send it on to the graphics
Print.
team to
Right.
make it look really,
Really
nice, because
nice,
they did a
nice.
great job with it last year. So I can't wait to see what they can come up with this year.
Okay, so this is just a workshop version.
This is the workshop version.
Because I know this, I can imagine the hours you put into this. I can just imagine.
This is quite a project.
Yeah, and once it's approved, you start for the next year.
That's right.
I remember that from the last 3 years. It's just like, whatever you're doing now, as soon as it's voted on, you're already looking at it for next year.
Well-
And then too, statutes change. We know that. And when is session ending? Maybe the 30th of May?
We hope so, Mrs. Sprague.
Yeah, we're hoping. But then again, here we go with another session in the fall.
Yes.
So that's why you're constantly,
Yes, ma'am.
it's a working document, a breathing one.
We start our meetings in January, which means we have to have the schedule ready to go in October.
Right, right. So, okay. I just wanted to throw that out there.
And then
Recognition.
we have one more transportation thing to bring up here, and this came from a request from our principals of transportation devices. So scooters, bicycles, skateboards, things with wheels, things with motors, things without motors. When they're on campus, they need to be off and walked. When they can ride them up to campus, but once they hit that campus line, just for the safety of all of our students, we'd like them to walk them to their designated area. So this just puts that language in our code.
Love it.
Oh, did I skip ahead?
No, you're
We're
good.
good? Okay.
Yep, you're on personal transportation, you're good.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
If I
Sorry.
may, this is a really interesting change to have a discipline matrix just for transportation. That's,
I love it.
it just brings consistency. I'm just curious, what will that look like differently for the drivers? I mean, obviously, I'll let you explain, but it looks to me like they'll have referral forms on the bus and they can code it, and then that's passed off to an administrator.
Correct.
Is that what they're doing already? This just gives them codes, or?
That is what they're doing already, but it aligns with our student code of conduct. So for example, when we started this process back in January, they made a list of the offenses that were happening on the school bus, and we said, oh, well, that fits here, and that fits, this is disruptive, this is disrespect, this is profanity. So we were able to align with them the incidents that were taking place with how we would code that as administrators.
Interesting, okay. No, it's a really great change. Yeah, well done.
Well, I think it's a game changer, to be honest, to have that.
We're hoping that it strengthens that communication.
And having the, I don't want to step on you there, but
No, you're good.
having the input from transportation and the bus drivers, and even probably the aides, I'm hoping, that kind of deals with some of those things as they're going on. So I think it's a perfect alignment. Okay.
One wording change, thank you for indulging us in transportation. When we get into the matrices, one thing we did add, and I think this probably speaks to what you and I talked about, Mr. Kennedy, is we added with green 9 that school administrator designee may assign a loss of privilege or change an alternative consequence in the matrix. So it does give that adaptability for an administrator.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Right, absolutely. You can go through, there's a lot with the code of conduct, and this is our working comment, common document with looking for consistency, but also giving some options within the matrices, making it clearer in terms of what it says, and describing different codes and what they mean from the key, so.
And if I can just add a little bit to our matrices talk here, there was the old format, if you look back at the actual code of conduct, it has abbreviations for
Yes.
everything, and it makes it really confusing. And we found some incorrect codes in there. So again, Mr. Sully, he retyped the whole matrices and put the whole word in there so that we can make sure it's as accurate as possible. So I don't know that it's going to look exactly like this because it does add quite a few pages to the code of conduct, but we'll work with the team to see what works best. So that's why it looks like it does, and that's why it's as long as it is. The major changes that were made to the matrices, we didn't take anything out. I think what we did was added several codes that were older codes that the principals wanted to bring back. One was horseplay with injury. One is a new code. It's a technology violation, but it's a level 3. And we heard there was a need for that for students that were very savvy electronically and tried to mess with the network or do something that was more than like a cell phone violation. So that was a new code. And I think maybe one other code was added to level 1 or 2. And then past that, it's going to be mostly added, the range of suspension days were changed, or alternative actions were added, and those are all in red.
I want to say thank you so much for getting rid of the acronyms. I was going back and forth, and oh my gosh, you had to look at what the infraction was and then go back to the page of what the abbreviation or even just the letters were to see what that really meant. It was very cumbersome. And I'm sure not only as a school board member, it had to be hard to try to remember because there's so many acronyms in every field, I will say. So thank you for clarifying all of that. That's going to be very helpful for me anyway.
Yes, ma'am.
And especially I think it will be for the parents. Oh, Ms. Felton, I'm sorry, I have a comment.
That's okay. With the classroom removal, section 9, and I'm trying to read through this. to
What
make
page
sure.
are you on?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm on page 93.
It's your pink 12.
Okay,
Pink 12. There you
thank
go.
Got
Pink
it.
12. So I'm looking through this, and I know it is according to statute that teachers can't have students removed. My question is, with regards to having had it happen to me a couple of times, well, they've apologized and now they're going to come back, for whatever thing they did. And if it's a small thing, okay, fine, bring them back. But I don't want them removed and then turned around and sent right back to my room again 5 minutes later. We removed them. We gave them a talking to, and then they come back and it's, just chaos again. Is there any, and I'm trying to see if there's anything in here about, giving the teacher some more autonomy in saying, no, I don't want them back today, or, things like that, because having had a student that I had to make the decision of whether or not I was going to press charges on that student, I want to make sure that the teacher has some say in the discipline result as to whether or not that kid can come back.
So, Ms. Felton, there's really two processes. One is for like what I'll call a lower level incident, right? That's going to be handled internally and as a discussion between the principal and the administrator about, normal misbehavior on a day or maybe lower level incidents on the matrix. What you may be referring to is some of the more serious things you just kind of alluded to. There's a process that's in law and outlined in the MEA contract by which a teacher can formally request that a student be removed from their class. The school has to convene a placement committee, which has like a body of individuals on it that's mandated who has to participate. They review it, make a recommendation with a certain period of time. And there's, exceptions. For example, if this is the only teacher on the campus that can teach that individual student, then obviously we can't do a removal from the class or reassign the student's schedule. But that committee is what makes that decision alongside the principal. So it's not, I think some of the situations you're alluding to would be handled by that process.
Okay, well, there's also circumstances of where I had a student who decided it was a good day to cuss me out. And I asked for her to be removed from the class and was told, well, we don't have any place to put her right now. You're going to have to keep her. And it was a constant, nothing got done that day in that class period. Because she just made it her business to talk back on absolutely everything I said to the class and to use lots of profanity, but I was told I had to keep her, even though I said I need her removed from my class right now. She's being abusive to me and disruptive to my class. And I was told I was stuck with her for the entire class period, and that's not a short time. So I want to make sure that teachers are able to say, no, you need to come get her, and not say, oh, well, we're stuck with her. We have to, it's not fair. It's not fair to teachers.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, I understand where you are. And I kind of agree with you. If there's a student that's being asked to leave a classroom for specific things, especially if you're considering pressing charges, I think the teacher should be consulted when that student is allowed or maybe even reassigned to another class, same subjects and all. So I don't know how we could do that.
Right, I'm not
But
sure
there
the
could be a
code of conduct, because it seems like that, from what you described, Mrs. Felton, it seems like it could be an issue maybe that with administration that we need to follow up. If that is happening at a particular school with a particular teacher, we need to follow up with someone on that school staff. Seems like that's an adult's concern. The student would be disciplined per the code of conduct. But if that is not being followed or the student is returning to the class and that consequence hasn't been issued, then we have an issue that we need to follow up with an adult on the campus. So that's what I would say. I would say we do have measures in the code of conduct. We do have measures for committees to handle if a teacher is requesting that a student no longer be in their class enrolled in their course. But if it's an issue like you're describing, that I would hope, all principals are over, they are overseen by executive directors. I mean, there's a chain that the teacher can go and work through that chain to say, my concern wasn't addressed and I need to take it to the principal, or I need to take it to the executive director or to Derek Jensen. And so I'd hope teachers know they could exercise that right if they felt that somebody was returned to their classroom before that student was consequenced or due process was given.
We can, if I might add, Dr. Breslin, we can add that to, we do have an administrator's guide for following this of their tasks in terms of investigations and meting out discipline, and we can be sure that that's included in the administrative guide.
I would really appreciate that. Thank you.
Did you have something, Mr. Tatum?
I was just curious about that whole conversation. I mean, you've been a principal, right? And you've been a principal. Ms. Lyons, have you?
Assistant.
Assistant. Well, but you in administration. Does that happen on a regular basis where a child is just, or a student is being mouthy, or and we just leave them in the class? I mean, is that? I'm not doubting what happened. It concerns me that you're an eyewitness to it happening. I'm surprised that happens. But there might be circumstances that I would just like to hear y'all's opinion on all that.
I am not going to say that it's never happened, because clearly we
Right.
have a case here, but I would say when I worked at a school, if I heard of anyone, whether it was behavior specialist, SSS, AP, or the principal doing that and taking a disruptive student and immediately saying they're back in your class, I would want to dig into what are we missing here, because that just isn't how we operate. And so I would say that's an exception and not the routine. And then that it's an opportunity to talk to whomever adult put that child back in the class and say, this is not how we're going to operate.
Okay, I would just hope that the teacher is given due credit or deference or whatever that is, you know. I remember a situation, I was substituting down at a high school in Sarasota, let's just put it that way, in a gym class, and this one guy's like chasing this girl around, and I tried to get him to stop, and he wouldn't stop, and then, so I ended up having to call the principal and security guard. He was being really mouthy or whatever, and they just pulled him out of the class, and he was gone for the rest of the day. So I would think that would be the default of what
Agreed.
happens. I know we have thousands of high school students, and I just want to make the point that the default and the deference should be given to the teacher, and hopefully that's not happening.
And I will say that when I hear of it, because I still hear about it happening, that it is not, it's not the rule. It is
Right.
it is an exception. But teachers feel like, well, their administrator doesn't care. So I just want to make sure that administration is aware that the teachers do have that right, and that they are able to have that right preserved.
I'm sure there are all kinds of circumstances that go into that, but isn't there some, maybe I'm asking the lawyers guys over there, seems to me, isn't there some law about a teacher having the right to
Yes.
have a
Yes,
student
there is.
removed from the classroom and stuff like, is that? am I-
That's what Ms. Felton's referring to.
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
statute.
right, that's what okay, that was just a
Eh,
good discussion. That's
Thank
it.
you so
Yep.
much, because that leads me back to the transportation. A bus driver should have the right as well, if there's a disruptive student, to be able to recommend removing them from the bus because of bad activities. So
Yeah,
I don't
we
know
do
if
have
that
a
was
process.
Okay, all
We do
right.
have a process for that, and we have revoked transportation to
Right.
students who have continued to be. So we do have a process, yes, ma'am.
And
Okay.
it's definitely never a perfect system, which is why
Right.
there is a place to go if you feel like as a teacher or a bus driver, you're not getting the answer that you believe you should be getting. But trust me, I just want to say that our administrators very much care for the staff. So the few times that it has happened, we need to fix those times. It should not happen. But I do believe very much that teachers feel supported, and I just want to say that.
Yeah, okay. So we're still on page pink 11, or pink 12.
Yes,
Um,
this is just a rewording of the blue at the bottom there with the high
Right,
school suspension for clarity.
I would say that the statute that was referred to earlier in the discussion about being able to come back onto campus be included, because I don't see the statute. I think you said FS 8. I didn't write it down.
It's 810.092.
There you go.
And it's in other places as well.
Right, but
And we
adding
can
it
get the-
here isn't going to hurt too, so,
We'll add the statute sites.
thank you. Okay,
Thank you, that's a great suggestion. Page pink 13, when we get onto page 95, this is where we have some rewording and grammatical errors and updated some language there.
oh, okay, yeah. All right,
All right. We can go to orange 5. This gets into crisis protocol.
oh, okay.
So yeah, if you want to take a minute to look through those couple of things under pink 13, that's fine. I don't want to rush anybody.
Which one are you talking about? Pink 13, I got you, I'm sorry.
I like the
was going
removal
on
of
to-
please.
I was going on to orange 5.
Yes, we can go to orange 5. This is where we get into our crisis protocol. Again, this is working on some of the language there and also being sure that we note the statute when it comes to unannounced lockdown drills. So,
Real quick on page 90, on the pink 13,
okay,
felony arrest, the font for school, and we'll fix that, right? It just looks kind of,
Yes.
yes, ma'am. Yeah.
things like that just hit me sometimes. I just see it, so sorry.
No,
Moving on.
it's hitting all of us today. We get it.
Yep.
Get it. You're right on.
It's a big document,
Mm-hmm.
so you're going to have it. You know, it's not meant to be perfect, but we're going to strive to make it perfect.
That's right.
Okay. Lockdowns. We're going
Lockdowns,
to-
yes. That's again saying that we will have unannounced lockdown drills
Okay.
per statute.
Unannounced, I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah.
When we go to page 101 with blue 5, that is looking at where we had put some of our parental rights information in there and moving some things around.
Okay.
This had some language in there about classroom transfers that's contained in the student progression plan in terms of class changes.
Okay.
And then our last one is just the update on Orange 6. And again, this was an updating of our entering areas for the opposite sex. This is a statutory requirement, so the language is updated there to include at school as well as school-sponsored activities and trips.
And it has a statute there. Okay, good deal.
And that basically are all of our changes. And then our timeline is similar to the progression plan. We will advertise it and then bring it back for approval.
This is awesome. Board members, any closing comments before we go on with this? Ms. Felton?
I just want to echo a Chair Spray, and this is a whole lot of work, and oh my gosh, I really appreciate all you have done to put this together, and I hope you take a day off somewhere in here just to recoup before you start the next one. Thank you.
Mr. Jensen just said no.
Anyone else? Mr. Tatum?
I'm good.
Okay, thank you for a very thorough,
Thank you very much.
I like the coding. I think the pink, green, blue, and orange, I think that's perfect.
You're welcome.
I was kind of weird, I'm not gonna say it's weird, but I was weird like that, doing color coding things too when I was in the other life. So I like it. It's a great addition. And I want to say thank you to Mr. Sully. Thank you so much for everything you do with that, because I know it's, looking at a screen for so long, I would say safety, wear the protective glasses, because I'm sure you look at the screen a lot, and that comes from Mr. Tatum, I'm sure, so. Okay, that will actually end our presentations for today. We'll just say to the public to watch for those to be coming out very soon and to be able to look at those and offer any feedback. But again, thank you to all the staff and to the board members.
Thank you.
We are now adjourned.
Thank you, Madam Chair.